Good that you finally have to do a job, Jordan. And we are live. Welcome to the NBA Deeper Dive. It is Friday, February 23rd. I'm Josh Engleman. I'm joined by DK. We're brought to you by Playback, which we're going to 7:30. You're getting multiple straight hours of content from us once again, post-lock on Playback, plus live before lock after this. Hit that thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you know when everything goes live. Follow us both on Twitter. Our Twitter handles should be under our bodies. DK, what's going on, man? Good to see you.
Yeah, good to be back. Excited for this Friday slate. I mean, the NBA All-Star break felt like it was like a month, so I'm ready to get back to the grind of DFS every day.
Yeah, it's been an interesting day. I assumed that Jordan wouldn't be my producer since it was a Friday, so I was very let down to start my day. I was also equally as let down when I got to the end of my day, but we can't all be winners here. We can't all be Tom Kennedy, who picked up the dub yesterday. He's a winner. We can't be 1-800-Eddie. He picked up the dub yesterday. He's a winner. Unfortunately, not me. I couldn't even get Jordan to not be here. Tough one. Tough scene. But Jordan is here, keeping everything organized as we get ourselves ready to hop onto Playback after this. DraftKings has the interesting slate for tonight because we have the main contest on DK, 100K to first, $4 entry, 100,000 entries. So we need to win a lottery ticket for 100K. But they also have the 4-game 10 o'clock slate tonight. Same $4 contest, only 30K up top, but nice little slate. We get a lot of action for today.
Yeah, I was talking to you about it a bit earlier. It's interesting they split it up into the two slates. So I'm not super mad about it, I guess. I mean, it's a good night slate. I like playing the night slate, and yeah. So you guys will talk about that on the Playback stream, right?
Yes, we will. And yeah, I just don't love the 100,000 entry piece for the early slate. Right. That's my only criticism. Otherwise, this is exactly what I want it to be, especially because you can then you can feel like you're playing this early slate with normal volume, and then you're completely uncorrelated to that night slate. Doesn't feel like you're just going to take a bath on the same dudes that you played from 7 o'clock and then on the late games. So that's appealing to me. If this were just 10 and 4, then any exposure that I have to those late games, just double counting it. I don't love that. So this is working out perfectly. I just hate the first contest.
It'll be great for me. I'll most likely be tilt entering the late slate because I'll probably lose in the early slate. So, and I'm like, hey, I can make my money back in the night slate. So
I just stopped watching all things yesterday after the Playback stream because everything we turned on went negatively for me. And then I woke up and I finished 11th. So I'm hoping that I could do something comparable again where maybe I can drive us to watching things I don't need. The moment it goes wrong, I just shut it all down and then hope for the best and wake up with more money.
I assume that had to deal with Darius Garland's first half, my guess.
It did. And boy, oh boy, did me not watching really change the game for Darius Garland.
Yeah, I was already chalking up as an L. I had a pretty significant bet on his PRA I took like right before we knew the Donovan Mitchell news. So yeah, I was not happy with that the first half performance. Luckily, he picked it up a good amount in the second half.
Yeah, I was shocked to see it. I woke up to a DM from Greg being like, "Oh, Garland certainly got there," and I knew he had picked it up a little bit. I had no concept that he got to 40 fantasy points, which I didn't think was even feasible at the end of the half.
Winning lineup too, right?
Yeah, I'm almost positive Tom had him.
Yeah,
I think Keontae George was the one, the chalk play that didn't get to that point.
That didn't make it,
which was fitting because he was the guy that I had, and I don't think anybody had him above me.
Well, that's a little tilting, but
yeah. Oh, well, what are we going to do? So here we go. We've got 6 games to break down. This is 2 games at 7:30, 4 more at 8 o'clock, and all of a sudden you are just done having to pay attention for the main slate, which is very, I assume if one of those 10 o'clock games was a 9 o'clock game, this would be a very weird situation where they might have included everything. They might have just included the 9, but we got a good split here, 6 and 4, and we're starting it off with the Toronto Raptors. 7.5-point underdogs in Atlanta, 244 total. Not much here on the Toronto end. RJ Barrett is questionable. That is important for sure. I don't have a great feel on whether or not he's going to be playing today. We do have some ownership, though, coming into Toronto. 20 to 25 on Gary Trent and Scotty Barnes. Right at 20 for RJ Barrett. Around 15 for Quickly and Jakob Poeltl. And you're still getting around 10 for someone like Bruce Brown. When you look at Toronto, do you see anybody that immediately stands out?
I think Scotty Barnes and Gary Trent, point per dollar. You got Barnes at 8.8K. I mean, the minutes have been very secure for him. In competitive games, he's usually playing like mid 30s minutes. And I mean, the rebounding number has been solid. The assist number has been pretty good as well. And it's a nice flexibility. So, he stands out as a pretty good spend up in my opinion. And then, yeah, Gary Trent been, relatively cheap price point. The only downside with him is he's, somewhat score independent, so he can hurt you, but 4.3K is a good price point for him. He would look better too if Barrett sits. So you said you think you don't have a good feel on RJ Barrett, right? Whether he plays or not.
I don't really.
Yeah. I mean,
I want him to play really bad.
Yeah. If he doesn't play, that's going to make this team look really good, right?
I think the real problem becomes Akbaji because he's flat 3K small forward.
Yeah, like we'd have to start looking like heavily into guys like Grady Dick and Akbaji in that situation. Bruce Brown would most likely get the start for Barrett if he doesn't play.
Yeah, probably.
Right. Yeah. So I think the two standouts right now would be Scotty Barnes and Gary Trent. Now, in the first half in the most recent game, they actually gave their starters a lot of run. I was a little bit surprised how much Jakob Poeltl played in the first half. Now the game blew out, so you didn't see a ton of minutes for anyone. But because when Kelly Olynyk's been active, you've seen the minutes basically been like a split with those two. So I'm still a little bit torn on what I want to do with the minutes for both of them. I think Olynyk's like an interesting contrarian play because I think he has the upside to play like low 20s minutes or so. Yeah, what's your thoughts on the big situation, the center situation, I guess, for Toronto?
Assuming Barrett plays, I'm mostly unconcerned because I think that kind of just blocks everything out. Other than like, obviously, if Kelly, all it takes is a little bit of foul trouble for Jakob Poeltl to get those minutes to Olynyk. But if they don't open up any spots in the rotation, then I think today is a day where you can mostly ignore it and it won't be too big of an issue. At 4,700, like the power forward eligibility helps, but you need an outcome at that. You need something extra to happen for you at that point. If Barrett ends up out, I mean, like they could play them alongside of each other very easily, and it wouldn't be all that crazy. You can, which I think is sort of how you're hoping for any sort of Kelly Olynyk ceiling game, is him getting 3 or 4 minutes alongside of Jakob Poeltl if they need it. Don't know if they do that because they could very easily bring like Chris Boucher or something back into the rotation. The problem is Toronto is really malleable. They got a lot of like dudes that could slide back in here for 14 minutes that might not matter, but just kind of take a bite out of the dudes that do matter. I'd love to get to Kelly Olynyk. I generally like playing him. I don't know if today is going to be that day. I am not really getting to Jakob Poeltl either at 6,200. I did have a bit more earlier today. I don't now. 16% owned. I have 8. I did a run right before we got started. The only guy that I'm getting a lot of is Gary Trent, 4,300 shooting guard only. He's already 24% owned. We have him with a little bit of negative leverage. I am doubling up on Gary Trent right now. I think that's just a position and price that's really making things work for me. I don't feel like I have him wildly overprojected. I'm about 1.5 over where we have him on the site, which I'm okay with in his matchup against Atlanta. I just don't love the idea of like hitching my wagon to Gary Trent.
No, it's not fun because, like you said, like he can kill you. Like Gary Trent can go out there, play like 25 minutes, and give you 10 fancy points, right? So,
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, the price point make him stand out on this slate where there's not a lot of value. I mean, you mentioned Poeltl. Like, I think there's a center we'll talk about in a bit. I think you're pretty high on him too, Zubac.
I had a ton earlier.
Yeah,
still have him.
Okay. Yeah, because he played a ton. I don't know if you noticed, he played a ton in the first half. I think Plumlee only played like 4 or 5 minutes. We'll get to it, but
yeah,
he's someone that I prefer, a little bit cheaper. What's your thoughts on Quickly at 6.9? I'm kind of like indifferent on him. He's been a little bit up and down, but he would obviously look better if Barrett doesn't play. He played 33 minutes in a blowout. I think he was on pace for. Hold on, I have it up. He goes on pace to play another like 4 minutes there. So he was on pace to play like 36 minutes last game, which is not bad at all.
So he's someone that I have been consistently high on in comparison to the rest of the industry since he's been traded to Toronto. Today is no different. It's starting to consolidate itself and get everybody in the same sort of spot, but I have him projected 2 points higher than we do, and that has been like a consistent thing for me for a couple weeks. I have 19%, so I am coming in over the field, but it's not as extreme as it's been over the past like 2 weeks where I've been like 2xing quickly constantly. So he is the guy that I'm getting to most after Gary Trent.
Okay. Yeah, because he's a pretty nice usage since coming over to Toronto. It's like him and Scotty Barnes kind of leading the way. So I played him a lot right when he was first traded to Toronto because I felt like his price was like too cheap, I feel like. And then now I've kind of just been like, yeah, like he's just like indifferent, right?
I mean, they've got a lot of options between Barrett. Like that's kind of the reason they're already getting a bunch of love with Barrett in, and it's only going to get more extreme if Barrett ends up out. The spot is great against Atlanta. But it becomes complicating to figure out, like, is it Akbaji? Is it Grady Dick? How much more do we like someone like Bruce Brown at this point? Is it Jordan Nwora? Are they looking for more creation since RJ Barrett's going away? Like, there's no clear cut option, and that's the scary part, especially on a day where there's 100,000 entries in that DraftKings contest, and getting that sort of flyer right might be the thing that is pushing you past the other 103,999 people.
Yeah, like I feel like if I was MMEing, I'd probably just get some Dick, some Akbachi, some Nwora, but yeah. I agree with that take of like you don't know who gets like the biggest bump in that scenario.
Especially if we would have Barnes, Hurdle, Quickly, Trent, Brown. Would that be your assumption of a starting lineup?
Yeah. I think Bruce Brown starts.
That's where it really starts to suck because like now none of the guys that are 3K and are going to pick up extra time are even in the starting lineup. Now you're just guessing like who's the first guy off the bench that picks up extra minutes. That's where it gets really brutal.
Yeah, like I think it's got to be Grady Dick in that scenario because he's already been like firmly in the rotation. But like, how many more minutes would he play? Would he go from like 20 to like 25 or so?
The question then is, do they add a person to the rotation or consolidate to the people that are already playing? And
I
like
think
not
they add
really
someone, but
I think it's probably a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B. Someone picks up half of RJ Barrett and the rest of it gets redistributed to everybody else. Something in that neighborhood.
Yep.
I mean, you're certainly throwing flyers at Grady Dick. You can probably get away from Akbaji unless he somehow moves into a starting lineup because of how bad he is on a per minute basis. And then all bets are off if like it happens to you think it's Jordan Nwora because he's all over the map in comparison to these guys.
Right.
Anything else for the Raptors?
No, I think we're ready to move on.
Now, the Atlanta side, little bit easier to talk about. Onyeka Okongwu out for the foreseeable future, which is kind of a bummer. But Clint Capella is now back. We've got 20% ownership coming into DeJounte Murray, around 15 for Jalen Johnson, around 10 for Trae Young. Murray, not the same play on the FanDuel side where he's 8,200. Jalen Johnson, 8,100 there. Similarly, not the same sort of play for this one. Murray was much more owned earlier. I'm curious where you land on Murray right now because I think he looks like the best option from Atlanta.
Yeah, I think point per dollar, he stands out as the best option. I do agree. I felt like he was, I thought he was going a little bit over-owned earlier. I saw the ownership has dropped a bit. I think he's the easiest to get to because the position too and the price point. Like competitive games, he's going to see mid-30s minutes, relatively high floor plus ceiling. So I agree I think he is the easiest guy to get to. Now the minutes restriction, because we know Capella's on a minutes restriction. My guess is probably like 20 to 25. Is that what you're thinking?
I gave him 24 and it made him be completely uninteresting to me. So that made me feel pretty good. I didn't want to like, I tend to go high to start so that I can see if it even matters. And then if I need to walk it back, then I can. And if I have him in it for 24, it's probably not going to matter all that much. So that makes me feel good. Like I didn't get him at 24. That'll work. That's probably the ceiling of it too.
Okay. Do you think that Fernando gets all the backup 5 run, or do you think we see some Jalen Johnson at the 5? Because I think if Fernando plays all the backup 5, he actually stands out as a good like contrarian play, but I'm just not convinced, especially against Toronto, like Olynyk playing the backup 5. Like, do they really need Fernando out there?
So I only went to 16 on Fernando, so I'm not too worried about it. That's another guy where like I'm happy he's 4,400 and not 3,400, where those minutes really start to matter a bit more. My guess is we're going to get some Jalen Johnson at the 5. They don't seem to mind doing that right now.
Yeah. So if that's the case, then I think Jalen Johnson's a pretty good, like he's not super popular, 7.3K. He's already playing big minutes. He obviously looks better if he plays some 5. Reasonable price point, 7.3K. He's someone I played a lot recently, as a train option. I feel like he's not been super popular a lot. And yeah, I mean, he has a pretty high ceiling. If you just take a look at like recent games, like he's had a couple 50 fantasy point games in here, 40 there against Houston. So we know the ceiling's there even when this team is healthy. So I think he's a pretty good kind of, GPP play today at that price.
He's my most exposed hawk. I've been very heavy on him all day. He's in 37% of my lineups right now, nice. 7,300, power forward only. He just, to me, stands out, and I like the spot. Toronto's defense has been terrible as of late. I don't expect it to be like suddenly better for today. 244 total for the game, highest on the slate. Atlanta either first or second in implied total. Is it? Yeah, second behind OKC. So I'm happy to get to Jalen Johnson. I'm 2xing Sadiq Bey. I'm close to 2xing Trae Young. I have a pretty solid stand here on Atlanta, and I'm not really mad about it. It's because they're the team that doesn't deviate. We know what their rotation is going to be. Like, these guys are just going to get their minutes. I like that on a 6-gamer.
Yeah, like they already run a tight rotation. I wanted to ask you about DeAndre Hunter because his minutes have slowly ticked up. Do we think he can play like 32, 34 minutes tonight? Like, if that's the case, I think he's another sneaky play that's not getting much ownership.
He's a wild card tonight, isn't he?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
I think like
I don't have a great feel.
Is like he could just be back and just play normal minutes, right? It's a first game back from the All-Star break. So like I think it's possible he could come out and just play like 34, 35 minutes. If that's the case, like I don't mind getting some Hunter exposure.
28 in back-to-back games before the break, now coming back here. Doesn't seem like the consensus or the betting market is showing that same sort of like love to get that jump, but that doesn't mean today isn't the day that he gets that sort of bump. I wish I had more, and I might bump him a minute in a bit just to try to get him into a little bit more. Especially, he's the kind of guy that I'd like to have on a day like today when we have to beat out 100,000 other people like that. The natural upside of him just getting back to that sort of minutes allotment is an obvious way to like pick that up, and you would not be surprised at all if he just got back to playing 30.
Yeah, right. Even just like a slight minutes bump, I think makes him a solid option. But
yeah,
I think he's a good GPP play today.
Anything else you want to touch on here for Atlanta? Any Bogdanovich? That's probably it.
Yeah, no, I think that's it for me.
I have, as of right now, the Atlanta Hawks are the team that I am most exposed to. They have the most aggregate exposure of anybody for me. Phoenix is close. Toronto and Cleveland are both close, but Atlanta tops the list. So if you're looking for my favorite team today, it appears to be the Atlanta Hawks. All right, schedule for the rest of the day. Very simple. I mentioned it before. NBA Live Before Lock coming up next at 6:30. They will take you all the way to 7:30. To see that, you want to make sure you hit that like button. You don't want this stream to go black. You got to unlock it for yourself, guys. And then at 7:30, we move over to playback. We're live on playback right now. You guys should just be there on playback if you want to be watching it on playback. Also, we're going to be giving away 5 VIPs for playback for the day in the playback chat during the Deeper Dive and Live Before Lock. This is a message coming directly from Jordan. So we want people to be there and be chatting. What it means to get a VIP in our playback room, it means you get League Pass for the night. You're going to be able to watch whatever basketball game that we are putting on in the background that we're going to be watching and talking about. You get League Pass for the day if you get that VIP. No cost to you whatsoever. You just got to be there. We want you guys to come hang out with us. So I don't know how Jordan's going to be giving those away, but he is giving them away. And if you want to get one of those 5, make sure you're hanging out in playback. Also, use our avatar, stokastic.com/avatar. Grab the logo. Use the DraftKings FanDuel Owners Box Yahoo. Finish in the top 3 of a contest with 5,000 or more entries. You get 1 month of any one of our individual sport packages. $200 value. All you got to do, tweet your result at StokasticHOF. Show us the lineup. Show us the contest. We want to show it off to everybody else as well. little bit of a benefit from marketing for us, a little bit of a benefit for you. You get $200 worth of tools over the next 30 days. Cleveland Cavaliers, 4.5-point favorites in Philadelphia, 229 total. We're doing this thing again. Donovan Mitchell, questionable. And as of right now, I don't believe that I've seen the tweet that says he's going to be playing or not. But
that's what I was just looking that up to see if he tweeted yet, and he is not. And I was looking at his like old tweets. It's usually a little bit earlier in the day. I was looking like I scrolled to like 4 or 5. It's usually like 2:30, 3:30. Haven't got it yet. So, I mean, just based off that, I would say it's a little bit more likely he doesn't play. But
I would like him to play because I don't want to do the same thing that I did yesterday. But I'm already see. This is what's happening. I had a decent stand on Darius Garland in the morning with Mitchell in, but not something that was going to like negatively impact my day if it went wrong. Kind of happening again here, where I'm over the field pretty significantly on Darius Garland. But if he ends up being the main guy and there's no Mitchell, that 49% that I have right now is going to become 70 or 80, and we're going to do this whole experience again. Right now, it's like Garland 20% owned, Mobley 20% owned, Allen 20% owned. Not much coming into Mitchell either way. How are you feeling about those 20% owned guys? Do you have a hierarchy for them?
Yeah, so I think Mobley and Garland look good either way. Like no matter what, I think they're still underpriced because their price points were down because they're on the limit. And obviously we got the news before All-Star break, they're no longer on a limit. We saw 37 minutes for Darius Garland last game. Obviously started super slow, but thankfully picked it up. 34 minutes for Evan Mobley. So like those two are the standouts. And I mean, this team in general is going to look way better if Mitchell does not play. So, I mean, I like Mobley and Garland either way. Who was the other guy getting a lot of ownership that you said?
Jared Allen.
Jared Allen. Yeah. So Allen kind of a little bit more indifferent. I don't know if Donovan Mitchell being out really affects him too much, but I think Mobley, Garland look good. I would say those are my two favorite plays. Allen does feel still a little bit underpriced. And then we'd have to start like highly considering a lot of these, secondary plays. LeVert, Strus, Okoro got to start last game for Mitchell. He's got nice eligibility. So, if Mitchell plays, I think for me, it's the two guys that are, no longer on the limit, that being Mobley and Garland as the standouts. Fine with Jared Allen. And then we have to start considering some of these value plays if Mitchell sits. And right now, I lean towards him not playing because we have not got the let him know tweet. And usually, from what I just looked, a little case study for like the last 5 tweets, he usually does tweet it out a little bit earlier in the day, and we haven't got it yet.
Yeah, I'm nervous that he's not going to play. Right now, 2Xing Garland, neutral to the field on Mobley, pretty well under on Jared Allen. So kind of matched your breakdown of being indifferent to Jared Allen. Clearly, I would have no problem getting to him. It's a 6-game slate. He's a 30-plus minute a game starter. Like, it would be totally cool to get to him. Just feels a little overowned. That bears out in our boom bust tool where he has the highest negative leverage of anybody on Cleveland. But if we get Mitchell out, bump Garland, bump Mobley, bump Allen, Isaac Okoro looking better. Sam Merrill starts to become a thing on a 6-game slate where you can feel a little bit better getting there. LeVert, Strus, I mean, it's a lot like Toronto. It changes the entire scope of what we're doing. Good news is it's a 7:30 start, so at least we get that before.
Yep, and we will know.
I hope.
And I was just looking at also some other numbers. Mobley, I know it's not a huge sample size, 385 minutes this year without Down Mitchell off the court. He's a 1.31 DraftKings point per minute player. So, I mean, if you give him his mid-30s minutes, he's obviously going to stand out as a really good point per dollar play.
Now on the Philly end, we do not know the status of Nick Batum yet. He is questionable for, being Nick Batum. Kyle Lowry is out for reconditioning. DeAnthony Melton, though, probable. He's coming back after a very long absence. Still no Robert Covington and still no Joel Embiid, which is the one that matters. Also, no ownership to this Philly team. 13% in the aggregate. They are the lowest owned team on today's slate. Maxi's at 4%. That's the high mark. Maxi is also 6% optimal. Do you want to get anything here from Philly?
Yeah, I don't think there's obviously anything that stands out just looking at this team in general. I do think Melton plays. Yeah, he's probably said he was supposed to play. Batum is, I mean, I could see him sitting here because it's a back-to-back, but I think Maxi's interesting for tournaments. Obviously he has gets a significant usage bump with Embiid off the court, and he's just playing huge minutes. He played 40 minutes last game against the Knicks. So I never mind mixing in some Maxi just because the ceiling is there. Paul Reed, he did play a lot in the first half last game. I think it was like 17 first half minutes. He finished with 22 minutes. That's because he was in foul trouble, and then they went small ball. The Knicks also played it a bit more small because Hartenstein barely played. That was annoying. If you look at the Tibbs quote, it was like, oh, he's going to play similar minutes. There's going to be shorter stints. And then Hartenstein put like 10 minutes. I was tilted because I had over fantasy score prop. So
I had his over PRA.
Yep, that was not fun. Not fun at
No.
all. But yeah, I think Paul Reed is interesting. He played 39 minutes 2 games ago against Miami. Cleveland is a big team, so like we saw them actually go small ball with KJ Martin once he got in some foul trouble. It doesn't feel like they want to play Mo Bamba a ton either. 9 and 5 minutes of the last couple games. So like I think this is a game where Paul Reed could play like 35 minutes, and right now he's getting no ownership. So I guess factoring everything, I think Paul Reed would be my favorite play here on Philly.
Yeah, I have 5% of Paul Reed right now. I'm actually getting to one guy as a bit of a GPP flyer. I'm still getting Buddy Hield at 6,700. Shooting guard, small forward. He's unowned. I actually have 19%. He's been handling the ball a little bit more for Philly. The assist rate has been there in the few games that he's been here. And I don't really think the minutes are going anywhere, especially now that we know Kyle Lowry's not playing today. Like, even if they want to give Cam Payne some of that, you don't really need all that much. And I think they kind of just like Buddy Hield more than they like Kelly Oubre.
Yeah, I mean, I think so too. Obviously, since Oubre came off the bench last game, right?
He did.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, I don't mind the shout there on Buddy Hield. He's got a nice position too, shooting guard, small forward, so it's easier to get him in your lineup. And I mean, Philly, a positive too is they're running a relatively tight rotation. Like I don't think we're going to see. I think Melton will be on like some sort of a limit, so I don't think it's going to really affect the minutes too much there for Hield. So
that just came out actually, expected to be around 20 minutes.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, I think Hield's another guy that mixing in is not a bad play at all.
And we'll see how that changes. Like if we lose Batum, then I certainly feel better about anything that I get of Buddy Hield. But at the same time, he will be like incrementally more interesting to everybody else too, because you just start running out of real NBA players.
Yep, agree. Also, we got the Capella news limited to around 20 minutes. So.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. Phoenix Suns are 3.5-point favorites in Houston, 233 total. We officially got the Bradley Beal news like a half hour ago, but I don't think anybody was really anticipating him playing. We also, though, got the doubtful tag on Yusuf Nurkic. Now that changes up Phoenix quite a bit. 50% ownership coming into Royce O'Neal, 20 to Kevin Durant, 35 to Drew Eubanks, who's 3,700, or 35% ownership on FanDuel. A little bit more expensive, but gets power forward eligibility, which really opens things up. I wonder what it takes to just be a center on FanDuel. Anyway, around 15 for Booker, around 15 for Eric Gordon, around 15 for Grayson Allen. Let's start with the main man here. How do you feel about Royce O'Neal?
Yeah, so Royce, I think, stands as one of the better point per dollar values. Maybe going a little bit overowned, but it's going to be him. It's going to be Eric Gordon. It's going to be Grayson Allen that benefit as far as minutes with Beal out. So I think Royce is a good point per dollar play. Maybe going a little bit overowned. Eric Gordon 4.8K should once again get the start. He played 35 minutes last game. Grayson Allen 5.4 reasonable. So I think those secondary plays all look pretty good. There were guys that were relatively uninteresting last slate. So we had a lot of really good value plays, but they look a lot better on this slate. And then Drew Eubanks 3.7K. I mean, I'm assuming he picks up the start. I'm assuming he plays 20 plus minutes. So he's another value play that I'm pretty high on, unless they try to do something weird. But I'm pretty sure he will get the start.
I think that he gets the start as well. I'm pretty terrified that he played 6 minutes against Dallas, while only getting 19.5 for Nurk. This feels like a team. The only saving grace here really is that they play Houston. This feels like a situation where they might just jam Thad Young.
Yeah, well, that's what I was going to say. Like, I have no idea. They have a lot of guys that can go, like Bull, Azubuike. My assumption is you will see some Thad Young. I guess there's an outside chance they could try to start him too. Like you said, the minutes have not been great in Eubanks. Plus Phoenix, they've shown they will go small ball too.
Yeah.
A good amount. So I feel like whoever gets a start, my lean right now is Eubanks, but whoever gets a start at the 5 is going to be a good point per dollar play. I don't know if I'm going to mess with like the backups at all.
I don't want to. I'm really nervous we get like 20 minutes out of Thad Young, and that looks pretty interesting because of that power forward eligibility. I'm getting to Eubanks. I only gave Eubanks 22 minutes. I am getting right around the field. It's just terrifying because I don't trust it. He could just as easily play 26 minutes like Nurkic does. He could play 16 and they don't really care at all. And they have some like three-headed monster of him and Azubuike and Thad Young, and none of it matters. It's a nerve-wracking situation, but assuming he starts, I think you have to just feel kind of confident in him just because of the price.
Yeah. What do you think about the two spend ups, like Booker versus Durant? I think I slightly lean Booker, but not by a wide margin.
So I am neutral to the field for Booker. I have about 11%. I am way under on Durant. We've got him. Okay. We also have Kevin Durant like pretty negatively leveraged in comparison to Booker, and we also have their optimal rates pretty close to each other. Durant at 11.9, Booker at 10.1. So I tend to look at Devin Booker first because of the ownership. But if you flip their ownership, I would probably just have a little bit more Kevin Durant instead.
Yeah, Booker also gets a relatively significant assist bump too with Beal off the court, because the assist number has been pretty high on Beal when he's been healthy. He was actually like leading the team in potential assist over like the 2-week span or whatever before he got injured. So I do think that raises the floor a bit too for Devin Booker with Beal out.
Apparently, I am no longer on the playback stream, and I can see why it happened. So I'm going to fix that quickly.
Okay.
Boom. Should be back for everybody. I know why it happened, and it's going to be something that is going to happen again. I'm going to have to take 1 second here. The problem is I have a plugin that like dims my tabs when they're not active windows. So because I wasn't active in that tab, it just shut it down. So I'll pop back over there in 10 minutes and move it around. Or I guess I need to just leave it active, which is not what I did. So there we go. We're good. We fixed it. Jordan, I got it. Thank you for that one. Anything else you want to touch on here for Phoenix? Any advanced Eric Gordon, Grayson Allen type thoughts?
No, I think both those guys are fine values. Again, they should see a slight minutes bump. Eric Gordon especially. So yeah, I think Gordon, Grayson Allen, like they're going ownership solid on them. I think they're fine pivots off Royce O'Neal, obviously a little bit more expensive. We talked about, my thoughts on Royce. I think he's a good value, but maybe a little overowned. But yeah, I think there's a good amount to like here from Phoenix. So yeah.
Now on the Houston side, we're gonna get to 19% owned Fred VanVleet, and then single digits across the board for everybody else. Everybody that's normally available is. What do you like here from Houston? I thought I would get a little bit more here, in particular Şengün, who I feel like I have projected pretty well, but I'm just getting like around the field on everybody.
I think this team's a really interesting tournament team. In the first half of last game, they gave their starters a lot of run. I mean, VanVleet has been like really disappointing of late, but the price is down to a point where it doesn't even matter. I feel like sub 7K VanVleet in a competitive game. I expect him to play mid 30s minutes. So I think he's probably the easiest guy to get to, but I like Şengün a lot for tournaments. We haven't really seen the huge ceiling game from him lately, but we know it's there. Plus, he's been matched up against Thad Young, Drew Eubanks. So I like the spot a lot for Şengün. Jabari Smith, Dylan Brooks, I think are reasonable plays, but yeah, I think this team is really interesting for tournaments. I don't think I can get to Amen Thompson, even though he is firmly in the rotation. He played 12 first half minutes last game. He closed in the blowouts. That's why I saw slightly extended minutes for him. But I think any of the main starters, especially VanVleet and Şengün, would be where I would be at. I think Şengün being my favorite play, factoring in ownership.
I tend to always get a little bit more of Jabari Smith than other people. He's just like one of those dudes for me. I have 14%, not a giant stand, but he is the second most exposed guy I have here. I thought I would have a lot more Şengün, and I would kind of like to get it because I just think that he's going to be able to put some people in the basket. When you don't have Nurkic's body out there, even Drew Eubanks isn't going to be slowing him down.
Yeah, I think he's my favorite play. Some of these guys are still priced up a little bit from when like VanVleet was out. Like Jalen Green's price feels a little too high. Jabari Smith, Brooks are fine, but I mean, Whitmore's getting a little bit of ownership too. I don't know how I feel about that. I think it's mainly those top two guys that I'm pretty high on for tournaments.
I'm with you. I got nothing else here. So, playback, folks, you see it on the banner at the top of the screen. We've been talking about it a lot. We talked about it earlier today. They want you to hit the like on this stream on YouTube. We also want you to just watch on playback. We're going to be doing this basically every day moving forward throughout the rest of this NBA season. It gives us the opportunity to provide something new, to watch a game live, the actual game. And it's not all of us watching on a different stream where somebody sees a dunk, but that actually happened 30 seconds ago. So the chat's all over the place. No, we all get the exact same viewing experience. We'll have people popping in and out, giving takes, giving bets, bringing some of the odd shopper crew over. We'll build prize picks cards from time to time. Tonight, we're going to talk about that 4-game night slate on DraftKings. We have so much available to us to break down, and we have the ability to just watch some ball while it's happening. Right at 7:30. I mean, obviously, they're not going to tip off at 7:30 because the NBA can't do anything on time. But we are going to immediately go to playback at 7:30 and start watching either Toronto and Atlanta or Cleveland, Philly, wherever anybody wants to go. We could bounce between the two. One of them goes to a timeout. We could just open up the next game. It's that simple. We've got Jordan giving away VIP packages. We have discount codes for League Pass if you want to just buy it for yourself. We're going to be here a lot. The environment is fantastic. If you haven't checked it out yet, it costs you nothing to be there. Maybe you'll get lucky, get a VIP pass, watch some basketball for the night. Or if you just have League Pass already, even better. But we get to just chop it up with you guys in a different medium, in a different way than we already do. And we hope that that's fun for you guys, especially now with how prevalent sports betting is. We can sweat first half bets. We can sweat all sorts of stuff. First scorer of the game. We can make the most interesting thing be who gets the first bucket, and we're all there sweating it at the same time right out of the gate. It's an experience I think you guys will really like. There are links in chat or in the description of this video if you're looking for more information, but you just want to join us, playback.tv/stochastic. Phil wants to know, what is my juicy bits play of the day? At least right now, it appears my juicy bits play of the day is Herb Jones, but we'll see where we end up by the time we get to the end of the day. Clippers, 9-point favorites in Memphis, 223 total. 20% ownership coming into Ivica Zubac, single-digit ownership and optimal rates coming into the rest of this Clippers team. They should have sat everybody for this one because beating Memphis shouldn't be all that difficult, but in all actuality, seems like we're just going to get a real Clippers team to go out there and smack this Grizzlies team around. Do you like anything besides Zubac?
Yeah, besides Zubac, no. I mean, when this team is fully healthy, they're always a team that's a little bit tough for me to prioritize any of them. Like, I'm fine with Paul George, fine with Kawhi, fine with Harden, but I think really for me, it's Zubac, and I'm higher on him than the field is right now. In the first half last game, he played 15 minutes. He was actually on pace. He played 29 and a half minutes last game, and he lost the final 4 minutes because of a blowout. So he was actually on pace to play 33 and a half minutes. He's someone that I really, really like today, 5.4K. But yeah, outside of him, I think it's tough to feel really good about anyone. I mean, Paul George would probably be my preferred option of the big three just because he's the cheapest and has shooting guard, small forward eligibility. But yeah, mainly the guy that I'm looking to is the guy that's getting the ownership right now. That's Zubac. But again, I am much higher on him than the field right now.
Yeah, I've got 22% of him right now, and then the most I have of anybody else is 4% of Paul George. It just feels really difficult to get to the Clippers. Like, if it just feels so weird to me to think that Kawhi just goes out there and smashes, but like if he does, like I just feel like the Clippers win by 30. I find Memphis going to have a lot of difficulty scoring in this game.
Yeah. This game could get ugly. I mean, luckily it's being played in Memphis, so better chance it stays competitive. I guess, I'll mention Norman Powell, 4.7K. He's also got nice eligibility, 31 minutes back-to-back games, but he's always just kind of like a filler play for me when they are fully healthy.
Single digit across the board ownership on the FanDuel side for the Clippers. They are equally as uninteresting there, but even Zubac is $600 more expensive. And apparently he never plays power forward, so he's just center only, which obviously he doesn't ever play power forward.
Is FanDuel, I never play in FanDuel, so do they have like the positions wrong a lot, or?
Well, like they just, they're pretty judicious with handing out power forward center for guys that probably don't deserve it.
That are just
Even
center,
more
they
so
give
than
power forward.
DraftKings.
Yeah.
Because there's only
Okay.
one center then at FanDuel too. So like if you
Right.
get that, it becomes a real linchpin to being able to be rostered. If
Right.
you're on a slate with like Jokic and Embiid with two center only dudes, it becomes very difficult to want to get to like any sort of 5K center unless you start throwing RJ Barrett out.
Oh, well, there we go. So, I
That'll do it.
mean, my immediate thoughts are I'm going to have a lot of Toronto.
Yes. Yeah. Very curious to see who ends up being the starter, although I think the overwhelming likelihood is the lineup that we went over with Bruce Brown, Trent, Barnes, Pirtle, and Quickly. They don't have to make it be that. Lots of guys on the table. I think it's easiest for all of us if it's Bruce Brown.
Yeah, I would be pretty surprised if it's anyone other than him.
So would I. I think it all really just comes down to how much, like now that their season is sort of a lost season, how much do they want to get a look at Akbaji or Dick in comparison to knowing exactly what Bruce Brown is?
That's true. But yes, like unfortunately, I'm gonna a lot of exposure to this team, so I already know Atlanta's gonna win by 30, and I'll be on the night slate early.
There you go. I know that feeling. I'll join you in that. If you want to watch playback from 7:30 to 8:30, I will probably be crying about Toronto. Now, Memphis continues to be just the Desmond Bane of my existence. He is out. Brandon Clark is out. Morant is out. Pippen's out. Smart's out. Jaren Jackson probable. Jake LaRavia questionable, who could be anywhere from their sixth most important player to fully out of the rotation behind two-way guys and 10-day contracts. No idea. Single-digit ownership across the board for Memphis. You do get 12% optimal rate to Triple J. I have 11%. I don't have anything else from Memphis. They don't really look that good, but at the same time, I have no idea who starts.
Yeah, I mean, I think if I had to guess the starting lineup, it would probably be Vince Williams, Kennard, Conchar, Aldama, and Jaren Jackson. But like you said, like could they start Jordan Goodwin at the point? Possible. Yeah, I mean, this rotation could also go so many different ways, which makes this team tricky. But I mean, there's not a lot of ownership coming into this team either. So Jaren's always someone. He's not getting a ton of ownership right now. He's always someone that I like getting to at low ownership because the range of outcomes is pretty wide for him because he's in foul trouble like half the game. But when he does avoid foul trouble, we know that ceiling's pretty high. GG Jackson's played very well off the bench, but the price point's up on him. The assist numbers are way up on Vince Williams, but also the price point is up on him. So kind of tough to get there. I don't hate Luke Kennard. I mean, there's some games he started, some games he's come off the bench. I think if he starts, I'd feel a little bit better about his minutes. My worry here is that Memphis just runs like a 10, 11-man rotation, and then just like no one looks good.
Yeah, the only guys that I feel any sort of comfort playing are Triple J, as of right now, with my assumptions, Triple J and Vince Williams, because they're the only guys that I expect to play north of 30 minutes if they can. Like, if the game is allowing that sort of script, they're the two guys that are definitely going to be out there, barring any foul trouble or injury. Everybody else, you could really pick any three other guys and like those minutes can go anywhere. They don't seem to trust anybody. And you can see that in our projected minutes. 24.5 to GG Jackson, 24.5 to Aldama, 24.5 to Luke Kennard, 23.5 to Conchar, 20.5 to Zaire Williams. You have Jordan Goodwin around. Lamar Stevens could be anything today, and I would believe it. Like I have Jaren Jackson. I have nobody else. That feels good.
What about what's your thought? I know it's not exciting. What's your thoughts on 3.9K Derrick Rose? Like the minutes have not been amazing on him, but also value is not great on this slate. I think he's maybe a little bit interesting as a contrarian play. I just like what is the minutes upside of him? Like 20 max? But
yeah, I think he breaks into pieces if he goes much higher than that. Yeah. And I think that's sort of where the problem ends up being. Like I don't if like, the minute ceiling is the same for Derrick Rose and Lamar Stevens, I'd rather play Lamar Stevens.
That's fair. Yeah, but also like Lamar Stevens could DNP this game. I wouldn't even be surprised.
No, not at all. He can be totally gone, and Jake LaRavia is in the rotation. Like I don't have any confidence. They also don't have to play Derrick Rose today. He's been alternating games, and not because of back-to-backs, just simply alternating games. Since February 2nd, when he came back. They've played 8 games. He played on the 2nd, skipped the next game. Played on the 6th, skipped the next game. Played on the 10th, skipped the next game. Played on the 14th, skipped the next game. Only one of those was a back-to-back. He's just never around. I assume he's healthy enough to play 16 minutes today, but I trust nothing. I don't think they care either.
No, like why this season's a lost cause. Like, why would they care about giving Derrick Rose minutes?
And if you're ever going to try to play Jordan Goodwin, he's 4,100 on FanDuel. He's $1,000 more expensive on DraftKings. You're going to want him to be the starter for sure, but if you're going to get him anywhere, it's going to be the FanDuel side.
Yeah, I feel like Goodwin's going to be a good play in future slates when this team is like resting more players. But right now, I think at the price point, it's almost impossible to get to him.
Yeah, agreed. The Washington Wizards are 16.5-point dogs in OKC. They made an interesting lineup decision yesterday and booted Jordan Poole to the bench. The only person that seemed surprised by that was Jordan Poole. OKC has no Ousmane Dieng. Adam Flagler is available, as is Keontae Johnson, Olivier Sarr, and Lindy Waters. Adam Flagler is 100% a made-up person. Apologies if you're watching this.
There's no way that is a real person. I've never heard of that name in my life.
No idea. No idea. But evidently, he is available. We have 25% ownership coming into Bilal Coulibaly, 10% to Kispert, 10% to Denny. Last night's hero, Kyle Kuzma's coming in at 15. And then we get Tyus Jones at 43. I do not think that he's going to be 40+% owned today. Toronto News certainly is going to bring that down a little bit. He does look like probably the best play, or at least the second best play. I'm a big Kuzma guy. Let's start with Jones. Do you see it?
Yeah, so right now, I mean, so I agree with your take of I don't think he's going to come at that ownership. I think he's going to be less than that. If he is like around 40%, that feels too high. The blowout risk, I mean, we had to talk about it, 16-point spread. So it does scare me. But again, I think the ownership will drop. Now, the potential assist numbers have been way up in Tyus Jones. He's averaging like over 20 potential assists a game. I think Poole moving to the bench even does help Jones a bit, kind of stagger the minutes with the 2 guards. So, yeah, I think if we didn't look at ownership, like Tyus Jones, obviously my preferred option. But now, when you look at that ownership, it's like, okay, he does feel a bit over-owned. Denny's had some really big games of late. He kind of came back down to earth. Kuzma at 7-4. I think if you told me this game stayed competitive for sure, the first 2 guys to look to would probably be Jones and Kuzma, and then even some Coulibaly. Coulibaly moving into the starting lineup didn't do a ton, but the minutes were there. He played 32 minutes. Does have nice eligibility as well. Another thing to mention with Coulibaly is he can be blowout proof at times. Like, there's been times where he's closing a blowout. Now, I don't know if him starting would change that. Like, would he still close in a blowout? But yeah, the ownership, again, scares me a little bit on Tyus Jones. Kuzma, I think, looks good if the game stays competitive. But yeah, the minutes on Bagley too were a little bit disappointing. He's another one where like the minutes are there. He can produce. He's not a bad point per minute guy. But yeah, that's kind of my thoughts on the Woods. I'm not super excited about Kispert. I know he's getting a little bit of ownership too.
I'm dead neutral to Coulibaly, dead neutral to Kispert, dead neutral to Denny Avdia. I'm a little bit over on Kuzma, but I only have 16% Tyus. But like, I'm completely okay with that, given the fact that he's projected to be in, even if we just say a third of lineups, even if we say that number is high and he's 33% owned, that still feels lofty. We have him at 27% optimal. I think that number looks a little bit more reasonable for how I feel about him today. So that's making me come in a little bit lighter. But as a whole, he looks solid. He's 7,200 on FanDuel. That is wild.
Yeah, I don't think I can get to him on FanDuel at that price point.
No, same. But yeah, like, this all comes down to how competitive does this game stay? And, by all metrics, it shouldn't be all that competitive more often than not, because these 2 teams are basically polar opposites. Who knows, man? Adam Flagler might be out there for some minutes today.
One other thing to note, though, is in competitive games, Washington has been playing their main guys good minutes. Like, I think Tyus and Kuzma both have pace to play like mid-30s minutes. So if you do get the game where they keep it competitive, I would not be surprised like 1 or 2 of these Wizards make the winning lineup.
No, not at all. The OKC side exists. As I mentioned, Ousmane Dieng with the G League team, and then all of the other creative players are available from the G League side. 29% ownership coming into Jalen Williams, and then around 10 for Dort, Shea, Chet, round 10 for Isaiah Joe and Josh Giddey as well. Who do you like the most here for OKC? Is it Shea, or do you see it the way that the ownership is coming?
I think I agree with the field on Jalen Williams. He's my preferred option here, 7.2K. Reasonable price point for him. The minutes have been very solid in competitive games, averaging like 35 plus minutes a game. The usage has been up. So I think he's probably the easiest guy to get to. But yeah, I mean, the price is up a bit on Shea, but I mean, it's a great spot and he's doing everything for the team. So I'm never going to be mad about getting some Shea. But I think it's Shea, Jalen Williams. Shot's a little bit more difficult to get to. There's a lot of centers I like on the slate. Opportunity cost is high, so that's why it's a little bit tough to get to Chet. Giddey got benched in the second half of their most recent game. I don't think that happens again, but his minutes have not been great when the team's fully healthy. He's usually someone I get to when a Jalen Williams is out or SGA is out or something, but when the team's healthy, it's kind of tough to get to. Gordon Hayward played 11 minutes on the bench, so I don't think we can go there. Lou Dort, 4.6K. It's never an exciting roster, but I think he's like a pretty similar play to like what Gary Trent is. Maybe Gary Trent looks a little bit better now since RJ Barrett is out. I don't think I can mess with any of these bench players though for the Thunder just because they run a pretty deep rotation. And I just never trust Dagnall with his bench rotations.
Yeah, the only guys that I have are the starters and then a small amount of Isaiah Joe. And I think that's just because he's 3,200. Right. And like he's definitely going to play. It's whatever minutes he's going to get are interesting. He did start the second half over Giddey last time out, but I am getting to Jalen Williams the most, and then I'm a little bit over on Chet. So I think Chet is sort of stopping me from getting to more of the Şengün piece.
That makes sense. Like I think Chet is, I mean, it's a great spot for him, so not mad about that.
All right, we've got one game left, a couple minutes to break that bad boy down. Don't forget to hit that like button. Reminder, we are on playback, but I've got one last little deal for you guys. We dropped a new package today. The Lineup Generator All Access Pass gets you every single sport of our Lineup Generator. To me, that's the best tool for the large majority of people that watch this show. Now, I want everybody to get The Sims because I think it is the absolute best. But for people that are playing only a couple lineups, a little bit more limited on the fun side, Lineup Generator is going to get you most of the way there. We're generating all of the lineups on our own. We get rid of all the junk. Then we present the rest to you. Click save if you like it. Click discard if you don't. It just pops back up on your screen with another lineup. Very mobile friendly. You could lock players and swap players. You export up to 20 lineups via CSV. You get access to all of the sports that we have for the month. $79.95. So if you were planning on having a lineup generator sub for the NBA and golf at the same time, potentially, or NBA when baseball comes up and you have both of those at the same time, getting the all access pass is just going to cover you. It just wasn't something that we had put together now. We have so many different lineup generator packages. If you're looking to acquire more than one, this is going to be the deal for you. This just dropped today. So if you're looking to sign up, link in chat or in the description. Easy one to talk about here. Miami Heat, 3-point dogs in New Orleans, although that line might move a little bit. Not a lot of ownership coming into Miami. It's all single digits in ownership. We did get Bam just barely over 10% optimal. I have a hard time wanting to get to anything other than Tyler Hero, Jimmy Butler, or Bam Adebayo. How do you see it?
Yeah, I think assuming Hero plays, it's just the main three guys. So I don't think there's any way to get to these cheaper options. I mean, maybe DeLon Wright, because he is the flatman price, but I have no idea what his minutes are going to look like. I think that the way this team's going to look a little bit more interesting is if Hero doesn't play, because then the secondary plays look a little bit more interesting. Like I think you would get some point Jaime Jaquez, Jimmy Butler would play more of the point. He would look better. More minutes for Duncan Robinson. But yeah, as it stands right now, I think it's Bam, Jimmy, and Hero. And I think my preferred option there would probably be Jimmy Butler, 7.7K, small forward eligible.
I've got 15% of Butler, 15 of Hero. I didn't really get to Bam. He's sitting there right in that same price range as Şengün, and I think Şengün looks better than Bam, so that becomes kind of difficult. But the team we need to talk about now is the New Orleans Pelicans. We might not have a ton to say. This is going to be a little bit better for Live Before Lock because they're going to get some updated data, but 8 minutes ago, Brandon Ingram ruled out for today, and we still do not have an official status on Zion. BI being out certainly changes things. We saw it yesterday. But if Zion is also out, we end up having a very wild New Orleans Pelicans rotation, and we're probably firing up some Joe Val at that point. What do you want to do with the Pels right now for the information that we have?
Yeah, so with Ingram out, assuming Zion plays, I think Zion and CJ would be my two preferred options there. Zion with Ingram off the court has a 33% usage and 35% assist percentage. So he looks good. CJ, 27% usage. So those two, I think, would be the standouts. And then I think you would get more run for Trey Murphy and Herb Jones. Both had like outlier peripheral stats games last time. 7 steals for Herb Jones last game. I think Murphy had like 3 steals and 3 blocks. He did. 34 minutes for Trey Murphy in the most recent game. So those guys look better too. 37 minutes for Herb Jones. You saw that usage bump for JV. The only concern with JV for me is I don't see a big minutes upside for him just because when Larry Nance is healthy, they usually somewhat split that center position. But and then like maybe some interesting guys like Alvarado, Najee Marshall, those guys are going to look a lot better if Zion also misses. Then I think this team would be probably the top team to target on the slate, maybe them in Toronto. So Zion news is huge. I don't have a super strong lean. It's a back-to-back. It's that same foot injury. And he has played through it. I feel like a good amount recently when he's been questionable. But yeah, this team, they already look good with Ingram out, but they would look way better if Zion's out too.
Yeah, Live Before Lock is going to hit you with all the updated data for this one because this one just really came in towards the end. Tyler Hero available to play for today.
Okay.
I'm getting to a ton of Herb Jones, and that was with everybody in 4,800, small forward, power forward. Minutes have been creeping up, and he tends to play a couple extra minutes whenever anybody is out. They sort of consolidate him a little bit more just by getting one of those guys out. So I assume I'm going to continue to have a lot, but I had 40% with him at 8% ownership. I don't know what his ownership ends up looking like after we change for Brandon Ingram and then potentially change for Zion. But at the very least, I gave it out earlier as my, I don't know what the hell the name of it was. My juicy bits play of the day was Herb Jones. So I'm going to continue with that Herb Jones shout, but keep your eye on the Pelicans. That Zion status is extra important. I hope we get it before 7:30, but we have 4 games at 8 o'clock, and we all know we're going to have to be doing some late swaps between 7:30 and 8. You can watch us talk about our late swaps on playback from 7:30 to 8 o'clock because I have a sneaky suspicion Greg and I are going to be doing that a lot if we get weird Zion news.
Yeah, no, definitely. That'll be important to tune in. So make sure to be in the playback stream because, things could get really, really interesting if Zion sets still.
Anything else you want to add? Interesting 6-game slate here.
I think the only other thing I wanted to add is, again, I was taking a look once again to see if Donovan Mitchell has given his let him know tweet. Still no on that. Plus, the quote was, I believe, the same from JB Bickerstaff of "we'll see" on the status of Donovan Mitchell. He said the same exact thing yesterday, and Mitchell didn't play. So right now, I would say probably 75, 80% chance Donovan Mitchell does not play. We might not get the news for like another 30 minutes or so, but that is my current lean.
All righty. Follow DK at DK__DFS on the Twitters. Follow me at Josh Engleman. Follow us over to playback.tv/stochastic. Donovan Mitchell listed as out. There you go. Let Live Before Lock deal with it. We'll talk to you later.
We're back, baby. Inducting you fine friends into the Stochastic Hall of Fame and giving away a lot of free month subscriptions. Any package of your choosing up to $200. And all you got to do to get involved, get inducted, get your free month, get your free Sims package is download the Stochastic avatar at stochastic.com/avatar. Tweet us your wins at Stochastic HOF when you finish top 3 in a field of 5,000 or more. Doesn't matter if it's a 5-cent entry or 500 and you are in. We kick this week off with Dave Oliver, Elway's Army, back again. Thanks for the great analysis. Sims just simply the best. $3,500 win in the NBA Showdown. And then the Professor. The Sims tool is legit. Yes, sir. $4,000 for the Professor. And Jorge's back. He was just in here for the NFL. Now, finally made it into the NBA Hall of Fame. Stochastic Sims took down the 20 max. I'll take second place. Thanks to the crew and the valuable information during the shows. Congrats, Jorge. And our own CEO, Tom Kennedy. Double or nothing on the Chiefs. And yeah, the lineups were built and swapped with the Stochastic Sims tool. What's that, a $51,000 win, a $5,000? yeah, I'd say it's a pretty nice night for Tom, as well as John Good. Another great night last night with the Sims tool. 9th in the big tourney as well. You guys rock. $1,000. First place in the 10K mini max. And Jay Lutzy back again. Good night sweat. All thanks to your help from ownership projections for the single game 15 minutes before. $2,500 for Jay Lutzy. And South Jersey beer scene. Hey, Stochastic, you might be on to something with the Sims thing. 3rd week in and stat correction away from a takedown. Thanks to the team, especially all of those fellas. And for the hours of content, cheers. Nice win for South Jersey beer scene. Ron Koth took 3rd in the 12K Friday NBA pick and roll with only 8 entries. Thanks to Stochastic and Josh Engleman for all the good info. Tyler Shaughnessy woke up this morning feeling like a champ. Big ups to the crew. The $1,900 win for Tyler as well. A little NFL action to close out the season in the Super Bowl. And PJ Allen decided to start doing the 50-cent mini max after living in the jukebox and dime world forever. First contest was Saturday, took 16th. This is Sunday and Mondays. Thanks to everyone at Stochastic, especially the guys on Deeper Dive and Live Before Lock. You guys are awesome. Second place, $250 for PJ Allen. And Stormamu landed second place in the FanDuel pick and roll thanks to the team and their help. Can't wait to try the Sims. You got it, brother. You got it. You're in. The Lulis card, Stochastic has the best tools in the game. Showdown takedown, $250, first place in Showdown. And Freddie P, if the sorry Bucks could have kept this game a little closer, good night overall. We'll take it. $750, second place for Freddie. And Brian Miller, shout out to the process. Josh getting some love on this one. Deeper Dive Live Before Lock crew for the insight. After a couple chopped large field first, a solo first, $3,000, and 3rd in this $4,700 field single entry. Maybe I can finally get hooked up with a sub. We got you, brother. 4,700's close to 5,000. Close enough. And they took down another one. Big thanks to the Deeper Dive Live Before Lock crew, best in the game. Close it out with John. Hope this counts. Hey, if it's 5,000 or more, like I said, doesn't matter if it's the quarter jukebox or the fadeaway. You're in, brother. Shout out to everybody who's been inducted. And welcome back if you've been here before. Hit us up at support@stochastic.com. Get that free month, $200 value, whatever sport you want. And don't forget, rock that Stochastic avatar wherever it is you're playing.
Unfucking real, man. God, does anybody like me? No? God, just start the stream. I don't give a shit anymore.
Well, what is going on, everybody? It's time for another NBA Live Before Lock. We haven't even started yet. I'm on Eric's nerves, probably from like the second that we got into the room together.
0.1 seconds, yes.
But it's going to be a great slate today because I actually love what DraftKings has done today. There's so much to talk about today. There's two separate DraftKings slates. We've got the FanDuel slate, which covers everything. So we've got all of that today on. We got a bunch of players on the injury report. Some guys who were just ruled out, like Brandon Ingram, RJ Barrett, in addition to that Donovan Mitchell, which Eric already knew because Eric follows Donovan Mitchell on Twitter. And Eric also has notifications set to his phone for Donovan Mitchell's Twitter account. Because what happens? If Donovan Mitchell doesn't tweet, then Eric knows that he's out, because if he doesn't tell him, well, what's the tweet? Tell the people again.
Are you just mad that normally you're the person who has like carved out all these edges and you're so active in like the MVP
No, I think it's good information.
And everything?
I want you to share with the people.
I'm just saying, let them know. It's just, you just turn the noties on days where he's questionable. Otherwise, I don't have it on all the time. It's just one of those things you get in the habit of doing over the last however long. And it's been pretty, 64 out of 65 was the exact number that I saw. I think it was Mr. Green that threw that into the premium Discord last night. So that made me feel sharp that was something that a lot of other people do too.
Yeah. So today No tweet from Donovan Mitchell. And then what happens right before the show starts? Donovan Mitchell gets ruled out, which, it's good.
Which you were cheering against for what it's worth. You wanted it to go against me for what?
Oh, of course. Because it would have been absolutely hilarious if yesterday you informed everybody that you have to know about Donovan Mitchell's tweets. It always goes this way. It would have been fairly funny if he didn't do the tweet and then he ended up playing.
Yeah, really funny. It would have been really funny to have me get more blackballed than I already am.
I don't know that people over on Playback giving you snowflakes means you get, and that's not even the case right now. You're on fire right now in Playback. I'll give you the heat emojis as well. Look at that. You're on fire.
Made 2 cups in beer pong, and now he's heating up. He's on fire, ready to go. Because, NBA Jam has been a while. It's been a while.
Yeah, so you got, you're on fire right there. So always good, because Eric was starting to feel like, how come people are freezing him over before the shows even start? Not anymore. He's on fire now, and I'm cold. So listen, Eric, things are coming up Eric right now with Donovan Mitchell officially ruled out. Guys, if you haven't done yet, do us a favor. Like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. And after we make our way through this show, I have good news for you guys, because once again, Playback, we're going to be over there, myself and Josh Engleman, after the show ends. And today, I like to think that DraftKings almost set up the slates just to make our Playback show even better. Because the way that we could do this show is you and I are going to be leading up to lock for the 7:30 Eastern time lock. And then right after that, Josh and I are going to be able to break down the late slate and talk about that. We'll be able to go over bets for that. We'll be able to sweat the ongoing game. It's going to be a good time over on Playback. So guys, go check out Playback. We're doing some fun giveaways as well. We got VIP tags to hand out to people, which is going to get you free NBA League Pass within Playback. So cool stuff going on. So check out our show over there after this one ends. And let's get into some of the injury news here, Eric, that has come out, starting with Donovan Mitchell. And, a lot of these situations are ones we saw yesterday. Donovan Mitchell was ruled out. Brandon Ingram was ruled out. The price tags are still favorable, although slightly different than what they were yesterday. But starting with the Donovan Mitchell news, what should we be looking at today? Is it just the same situation as it was yesterday for you?
Not necessarily, mainly because we saw Brandon Ingram get ruled out. It felt like one of the inevitable things today that he was going to be out again as the day went on, as we got no news about it. So I had pretty much the entire day, but we still have to sit and wait on Zion Williamson. I think because of the what the Pelicans did yesterday, in conjunction with the fact that it could be even better for them today, I gotta say, on every single Cleveland Cavalier, the way that I did yesterday, I had tons of Cleveland. I also had tons of New Orleans, but it wasn't necessarily going to be it's not going to be underowned or underutilized the way that it is today. People are going to still get there because we already have the Ingram news and it can get better. So we'll see as the ownership pans out here. I haven't reran anything yet, but something tells me it'll be a lot of the same usual effects from Cleveland. But you got to keep in mind that we have a Toronto situation that's opened up ever so slightly. And then you have a New Orleans Pelicans situation that could just be the stone cold nuts. So I don't know where it's going to pan out at, but it's going to really depend on where ownership lands in the next 50 minutes.
Yeah, I'm pretty curious to see what our updated ownership is going to look like, which once we get that in, we'll definitely bring it to you guys. Our projections are updated for the most recent news. So we'll go ahead and pull that up right now, some of the players from the Cleveland Cavaliers, and see what our updated projections are on these guys. And then we should have the ownership projections in short order as well, updated and ready to go. But first, isolating the Cleveland Cavaliers. Let's see what we have here from Cleveland. And so the Cleveland Cavaliers last night, we had this situation with the Cavs where Darius Garland was absolutely terrible early in the night. And I was massively leveraged on Garland. Josh and I are doing the show over on Playback after it ends. And Josh is like, every single time I've been overweight to anybody significantly this year, they just totally shit the bed. We're like, really at halftime, he gets 3 points and 2 assists. We're like, all right, this isn't going to be our night here with Darius Garland. Batum is going to play. He was just ruled in. And then what ends up happening, the show ends. I go get myself something to eat, come back, and Darius Garland scores 1 million fantasy points as soon as we stop watching him play basketball. Now for today, projections updated. Evan Mobley projected for 41 fantasy points. We've got Jared Allen at 40.5 fantasy points. We've got Darius Garland at 37, Karis LeVert at 28.99, and then we've got here Max Strus at 26.5 fantasy points. So we'll look at DraftKings and FanDuel a little bit differently here, especially because the slates are just so wildly different. But starting with DraftKings, Eric, who are your two favorite players to get to from the Cavs relative to what their price tags are and your expected output?
Yeah, it's going to be Darius Garland still. And this is where I think it just comes down to like looking at the box score from yesterday and trying to analyze where the field's going to land. We had Evan Mobley get up to 34 minutes. I didn't have him for 34 minutes yesterday. And if you're going to be getting that kind of an allotment from him, again, I still got to him quite a bit there at 32, but that's what we've got him in for now. There's pronounced minutes upside in competitive spots, and this is expected to be a very competitive spot here. They're only 4-point favorites, probably going to get trimmed down a little bit here in the next couple minutes, but I think it probably goes Darius Garland 1, Evan Mobley 2.
I feel the exact same way. And, yesterday we felt pretty good that Garland was going to play a full allotment of minutes and Evan Mobley was. I still feel the same way today, maybe a little bit of hesitation just because it is the tail end of the back-to-back. But at the same time, too, they had a bunch of time off due to the All-Star break. And while they were limited heading into the break, I tend to think that was a thing where the Cavaliers were so aware of the All-Star break where they're like, well, why are we going to ramp these guys up when we know they're about to get a week off? Why not just wait? So I think that in all likelihood, Garland and Mobley probably could have been playing minutes in the mid-30s a couple of weeks ago, and they just opted to be more on the cautious end, especially when you consider where the Cavaliers are in the standing. So I am anticipating a full allotment of minutes for both Mobley and Garland. That's how our projections see it as well. Jared Allen also a really strong option, but I'm going to lean a little bit heavier into Garland and Mobley because while Jared Allen was great in the absence of Evan Mobley, it was because Evan Mobley was out and his rebound rate goes down now that Mobley's back. So I'm going to be prioritizing Garland as well as Mobley. And ideally, I don't want a ton of lineups with Mobley and Allen both in them.
Correct. And that was one of the things yesterday that I was a little frustrated with myself because I had a couple lineups in the top 100. Obviously, Tom, our CEO, just absolutely smashing NBA this season. And no surprise, the Sims tool, it does what it is intended to do. It is intended to help you make money, and it has made Greg tons of money. It's made me a little bit of money. It's made Tom a lot of money. That is for sure. Feel awesome about seeing the results. Josh was up there with a couple of top 15 lineups. Overall, really good stuff from the Sims product yesterday. And I think one of the things I wish I had done in my process that I had two really good lineups in the top 200 that had both Allen and Mobley. And I think that was kind of a mistake for me. Now it's a 6-game slate, so I'm more inclined to let it ride here. We are looking at a ton of good value that exists on the Pelican side already. Could look even better. We already have decent value in Toronto. And then of course here with Cleveland, I'm more inclined to just kind of keep them together today as opposed to on the 10-gamer, but I don't know if you have any inclination on like ways that you can maybe limit exposure where you have overlapping Allen Mobley, because I definitely am with you where Mobley is going to, or Allen's going to be affected by Mobley, but to what extent here? We have a year sample size there and it was definitely muted there in with both of them on the floor together here, but what are you planning to do? Are you going to do anything to keep them out of lineups together?
Yeah, so what I am planning to do after I run my lineups through the Sims here and be able to do that like in a second here now that everything is updated on the site, just have to refresh to make sure the ownership projections are updated so I can scroll through that and see what everything looks like. I'm going to really quickly, after I run everything through the Sims, contest generator and all that, I'll just do some searches for my lineups that have Jared Allen and Evan Mobley in them. And I'll try, if there are ones that have like an extremely high sim ROI, I'll keep them. But then other ones, I'll probably just swap out if they have Allen and Mobley together for just a comparable sim ROI lineup that doesn't have either of them in them.
Yeah, it's such an interesting spot center on today's slate, mainly because there's nobody to be paying up for. 8,500 Şengün is the main guy you're looking at there. And I have him like a fantasy point above Jared Allen, who is 1,400 less. So I'm inclined to kind of let it roll with the two of them together because of how scarce the center position is here. I'm just kind of deciding on what I want to do here. I want to look at some of my highest sim ROI lineups too and see if there's any kind of an issue that I'm running into where it's like, oh, I have tons of the two of them together, because then I think I might want to limit it a little bit. But yeah, if it were yesterday's slate, I wish I had been smarter about that and just kind of incorporated some kind of a blocker to keep them out of lineups together. Today, kind of less inclined to do it.
One difference about today compared to yesterday as well, and it ties into what you had said before, less games on the DraftKings slate. Are going to be different for FanDuel. FanDuel, I really don't want to play them together. You got so many more options to choose from. For DraftKings, though, here's going to be the difference. And like you said, the center options is not the same amount of options we have on others. Like that's what happens when there's a 6-game slate on DraftKings as opposed to, the 10-game slate on FanDuel. There's just less options. It's a math equation. You got double the amount of games, double the amount of center options. Well, not exactly double, but about double. So that's the way that it ends up going there. And let's start answering some of your guys' questions. And also, if you're in our Discord channel, one of the perks of being a Stochastic member, you get into the Discord channel. You can ask me questions whenever you want. I'll go and answer them, especially during the show here, as well as after the show. Even on the post-lock show, like last night, I was checking out the Discord channel. I was answering some people's questions while we were breaking everything down over on Playback. And have you seen the new package that we have over at Stochastic, Eric? Just launched a few hours ago?
I think I might have, but why don't you tell the people about it?
So a lot of people have been asking us about bundles, and we've started to put them together. We've got the Sims bundle, and now we've got a lineup generator bundle. So if you're somebody who plays multiple DFS sports using our lineup generator bundle, or I shouldn't say, if you've wanted a lineup generator bundle because you play DFS using multiple sports for the lineup generator, like maybe you play golf, you play basketball. Well, guess what? Now we got baseball starting up in a couple months. But you get all of them together under one package, one bundle. Sign up using the link that we have below. Get the lineup generator bundle for all of our sports together. We've got the lineup generator bundle. We've got the Sims bundle as well. Sign up for any of those using the link that we have below. So wherever you guys want to play DFS, you can get all those packages together now. And that also does get you access to our Discord channel as well. Less importantly, Isaac Okoro, no surprise, but he's confirmed starting in place of Donovan Mitchell again. So if you guys have been looking for bundles, we got that for the lineup generator. Sign up using the link that we have below. Let's get to your guys' questions in the super chats, and then I'll go into Discord and start looking at some of those questions as well. First, by the way, Jordan, do you know these super chats, were any of them answered on the last show? None. All right. So we've got
Josh Juicy. It's important.
Okay. So there's the one directed towards Josh. Won't answer that. He already addressed it. But one from Will Griffey. Will says that he's late to the show. He says he remembers from this morning that Royce O'Neal was a good play. He wants to know, can he get a summary of the top plays at each price tier? Top, mid, and value. All right, interesting. I like this. So here's what he's looking for. And Will also, one other thing. If anybody's going to ask us any question today, specify whether it's for DraftKings or FanDuel. It's so wildly different for today that it's really going to impact what the answers are. But I'm fairly sure I remember for some of Will's other questions that he plays over on DraftKings. So favorite pay-up option, Eric, favorite mid-range option, and favorite value play on the slate. Starting with your favorite pay-up option. Who are you looking at?
Yeah, favorite pay-up option. It's probably going to change here to some extent here because I think I have more access to SGA now with all the value that came in. Yeah, I'm probably going to stick with SGA there. Point guard, I know it's the same thing that I brought up yesterday with Luka Doncic as the nuke of the night, but you're going to get a ton of value. CJ McCollum is going to be far more popular on this slate than what he was last slate. You're going to look at an opportunity for a lot of these guys to jump to the top, but like the Washington Wizards, SGA against the Washington Wizards. I find it hard to believe that 10-9 with all the value we have isn't attainable here. And he's not going to project the same way Luka did yesterday. I mean, Luka was like at 65 fantasy points for us at 12K, and obviously it had tons of value there, but 13% SGA in our last run of ownership here for a 1.56 fantasy point per minute guy. I put his baseline at around 1.7, and I'm just going to be well overweight to that 13% today.
Yeah. So as far as pay up options go, like what were you considering as the price range? Because once again, I kind of feel like there's a little bit of something similar to yesterday where we were talking about some of our favorite options, and you and I are like, well, we love, Darius Garland and Evan Mobley, but what kind of categorize somebody as being, a pay up option? Because I'm kind of inclined to answer.
It was primarily because of Zion. Zion was the guy that we were like, yeah, if he ends up being considered like a pay up at 7,800 yesterday, he's 7,900 today. We're obviously waiting on his news, so I'll make the cutoff 7K or above for you. If you want to throw Evan Mobley and Jared Allen in there, enjoy. But yeah, I think just as far as like spend up, I'm getting up to the tippy top here today.
Let's see. Which way do I want to go for my favorite spend up? I am most inclined to say Evan Mobley just because I know that he's going to be the player who's going to wind up in the most of my lineups, which is the way that I typically like to answer these questions, just who's the player I've got the most of. And that's going to end up being Evan Mobley, Donovan Mitchell out. You and I, it's, a lot of the same talking points today as yesterday, because it's Brandon Ingram and Donovan Mitchell out. I don't know what happened at the All-Star break here, Eric, but there must have been a lot of tongue kissing going on between players, because they are all sick coming back with whatever kind of disease it is that they've spread to each other. So I am going to answer here with Evan Mobley. I have him in 62% of my lineups here in my most recent run. He's going to be my most rostered player in that spend up type category. So Evan Mobley, getting to a whole bunch of them, somebody we should be building around mid-range. What's going to be your answer for Will Griffey in the mid-range?
Yeah, Darius Garland. I'll throw him in the mid-range. If we're talking a little bit lower down the board, or if you want to go to CJ McCollum above it there, I'm happy to click on him too as the go-to guy. But it is so hard yet again. 6,300, Darius Garland is just egregious for this spot.
Do you have a set of lineups updated for all the most recent news and everything?
Just got it done, which is why again, I was telling you, I got fiber put in here at the house today, and like, it still had the same thing where I was like, oh shit, my camera's about to go as I was updating everything in the Sims. But yeah, I have nearly 100% Darius Garland.
All right. So I have Garland in about half of my lineups right now, which is a healthy amount of Darius Garland, but it's actually not all that different from the field. So he's going to be my answer, but I mean, if you saw what his updated ownership is when you run the contest generator, we do have him for 51% ownership, which I understand why, but with him being 51% owned, that was a little bit higher than I was anticipating. It's hard for me to get to like 80% of him at that kind of mark there. So certainly a good option. He's the one I get the most of, but I also want to just point out to people that it's not like I have the same stance on Garland I had yesterday when he was projected for a little bit less ownership, but still he's in half my lineup. So clearly a core play, just not that much different from what the field is doing. How for a value option? Who are getting the most on the cheap end?
Yeah, this one is very clear cut to me. It's the same guy as yesterday, Herb Jones. I see no way around playing just an absolute metric ton of him. 4,800, 0.83 fantasy point per minute guy. This is a different spot going up against Miami, but the minutes more than make up for it. You had the blowout yesterday, which I think condensed it a little bit for some of the guys, but you still saw 37 minutes from Herb Jones in that spot. I love getting to him as a value piece. 11% ownership. So again, he's contrarian at the moment right now too.
Bruce Brown for me. And we didn't talk too much about the RJ Barrett situation yet, but considering the size of the slate, that it's, not all that big of a slate, this is where some of these Toronto players start to come into play. Like, I don't think I'd be loading up on guys like Bruce Brown or Gary Trent or getting to Grady Dick as a potential punt option if this was a full big size slate. But for DraftKings, where it's only a 6-game slate, I'm getting to a bunch of Bruce Brown on the cheap end because I do expect him to play extended minutes in a good matchup against the Atlanta Hawks. So I'm curious to see what actually ends up being the starting lineup.
That's what I was getting at. That's why I didn't say him.
Sorry, what's that?
That's why I didn't say him, is that I'm not positive what the starting lineup is, and I think everybody's assuming Bruce Brown's there. I think there's an actual good chance Grady Dick gets the start.
Could be. I mean, it's the first game to lock on the slate, so it's not going to be all that hard to just change if
Correct.
That's not what the starting lineup is. But for right now, we've got Bruce Brown expected to start. If that's the case, I'm anticipating around 30 minutes at a very cheap price point. We know he's always been a good fantasy producer when he gets the playing time when it comes to Bruce Brown. So I'll ask you this then. If he does start, is he somebody you're going to be prioritizing pretty heavily?
Oh, hell yeah. Yeah, definitely. He's 40% owned right now, 4,400. I have no problem with that. This is an Atlanta spot where you're going to have exposure to these guys as is, but with this youth movement and with them trying to like figure out what they have and getting rid of Schroeder and everything else, like there's a pretty clear path where Grady Dick could end up getting the start here. Bruce Brown Jr., I think it's pretty known what he is at this point in time. Like, he's a good rotational piece to have. I'm still very surprised that Toronto actually held on to him and that they're going to continue to go forth, because they could have turned him around for something at the deadline as well. I'm probably going to say, yeah, I'm probably like close to 50-50 on between which one of them starts. And even if Bruce Brown doesn't start, I mean, he'll probably end up too popular here at this point in time, no matter what happens, just because he is the assumed starter. So I hope that news comes out as late as possible. And I do think it's closer to a coin flip than most people do.
So one other thing, by the way, because I have my lineups updated, I'm actually finding it, just to circle back on something, I'm finding it very difficult to not play lineups with Jared Allen and Evan Mobley together. Just looking at some
That's
of
what
my
I'm getting
top projected lineups compared to other ones, a lot of my top lineups have Mobley and Allen in it. And it was something I don't want to do. But like I said, I was going to look at my top projected lineups by simulated ROI and kind of see how they compare to some of my other lineups. And it's going to be hard for me to not play at least a small chunk of lineups with Mobley and Allen together.
Yeah. And that was my point, was that I think this is something you want to be a little bit more conscious of on larger slates, which is why I was so mad at myself yesterday that I did it as much as I did, because, you know, you talk about like the range of outcomes and the distribution, like a standard deviation in any direction, like 68, 95, 99.7. Like you're looking for those like 3 standard deviations to the right type outcomes for some of these guys. And the opportunity to see a ceiling game from both on a 10-game slate that ends up becoming optimal, not very likely. But on a 6-game slate, there's just fewer options. And I know that we're going to get the same kind of condensed options in the likes of the New Orleans Pelicans pieces, but like just mathematically, we're a data company. You know, you look at the data, we have standard deviation posted directly on like what the fantasy point standard deviation is going to be for these specific players. Those are things that you just kind of like take for granted and neglect. And it's like, man, I wish I had just been smarter yesterday, because now it's a little too late, a little too wrong, and I can't wait. There you go.
There we go. Eric's first music reference of the show. So
cash it. Hey, almost made it halfway point. Almost.
Can you meet me halfway? Right at the border.
Ooh, look at you go.
Let's see what we have here. Let's see. All right. So lots of super chats coming in. Let's do the Ace of Spade question, and then we're going to hit Nuke of the Night. Then we'll follow up and get to the rest of your guys' questions. But first, Ace of Spade wants to know, who are the best options for DK tiers tonight, Eric? And let me see. Were any of these...
I didn't end up making them. I'm sure it's different. I'm playing DraftKings and FanDuel today too, for what it's worth. So if we want to talk a little FanDuel, I saw some people clamoring for that in the chat there earlier. Got a couple of lineups that I was like, you know what? This is a Friday. I don't have to do any betting content tonight, so I am kind of clear to play the whole slate. And I wanted to play one that had the entire slate on the board, and FanDuel does that today, which is kind of fun.
Yeah, it's like I said, it's super interesting because FanDuel and DraftKings just have such different looking slates today. Yep. And I really do love I know that like what DraftKings has been doing with leaving some games off at times has kind of been controversial.
Holy shit.
We've got, oh my God, Jordan Nwora starting quickly. So
Stop me, beautiful.
Way different than anything we were expecting. All my lineups
I had a feeling something gross was coming that wasn't Bruce Brown. Like Bruce Brown.
You thought it was going to be Dick.
I did think it was going to be Dick, but no, it's Jordan Nwora. Quack, quack to all those who know. Quack, quack.
All your favorite thing. Yeah, Jordan Nwora, former Oregon player. And of course, people know about Eric's relationship with the Ducks, a bit that has since been deceased on the channel, but Eric may be trying to reinvigorate a little bit. So here's what we're going to do. We are going to do Ace of Spades questions. I've got everything pulled up for DK tiers. Then we'll do the Nuke of the Night. And then we'll circle back. We'll look at the updated projections, have to rerun lineups for the millionth time. That's kind of the nature of the show and how things go here. And then we'll wrap up answering the rest of your guys' questions. But first, Ace of Spade, DK tiers, best options. I'll rattle it off for you here. Tier 1, that is going to be SGA. Tier 2, that is going to be Scotty Barnes. And honestly, it was already going to be Scotty Barnes for me. Do you think Jordan Nwora starting is a positive or a negative for the other Raptors starters relative to Bruce Brown? I actually don't really think it makes too big of a difference, but I'm wondering if you feel otherwise.
I totally fucked that up. Jordan Nwora, he was born in Oregon. He's not just letting you know. He played basketball at Louisville, but he's from Oregon. What?
He's probably a fan of the Oregon Ducks.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. But anyway, that's beside the point. What was the question? I'm a piece of shit and didn't hear you.
Yeah, so it's fine. I'll just read these off. Get your Nuke of the Night ready to go.
I will. I got that ready. I got that ready. Daddy's ready.
All right. Gonna be a big one. Tier 3, that is Şengün for me. Tier 4, I am going to go with Kyle Kuzma. One thing that if you guys saw, Tom, our CEO, won the $15 100K last night on DraftKings. Here's something I wish I would have gotten to, which was really, really sharp in hindsight. When Jordan Poole moved to the bench, you have to think about how that's going to impact some of the usage of the other starters on Washington. Really should have got to more of those other Wizards starters. Kyle Kuzma had a massive ceiling game last night. And no, I don't expect him to go for 60 plus fantasy points again today, but I do think he benefited from Jordan Poole moving to a bench role yesterday. I expect that to be the case again. Kyle Kuzma for me in tier 4. Tier 5, there's going to be Evan Mobley for me. And then tier 6, Darius Garland. It seems like they didn't really appropriately set up these tiers with Donovan Mitchell being questionable. So Garland tier 6, Evan Mobley in tier 5, ace of spade. That is going to answer your question. Now, Jordan, play the animation. Let's see Eric's penis get blown to bits.
Oh my God.
I miss saying that over the break.
I bet you did.
It's just different when we're doing this face to face.
I don't have to tell me twice.
Here it is, nuke of the nighttime, Eric. This is Eric's pride and joy, the most important part of his day every single night when he brings you guys his favorite GPP play of the night. Eric, nuke of the night, who are you going with on Friday? Bring us into the weekend strong.
I'll just run it back. SGA. We're taking on the Washington Wizards, #1 in pace, one of the worst defensive teams. Nothing stopping anybody at the rim anymore. They don't even have a true center down there. I do have some Chet Holmgren in my life. What was I trying to do? I was like,
I am.
It was Team
sure.
America.
It
was Team America.
I am almost positive. Somebody's gonna have to replay the tape. I think you just said that you're going to have some of. You said Jordan Nwora?
No, that's some Chet Holmgren.
Oh, so I believe what Eric said is that he was.
But I was doing like Kim Jong-un from Team America. Chet Holmgren? Oh, really? A little bit of that.
Replay the tape. You said you're going to have a little bit of Chet Holmgren in your wife tonight. That is absolutely what you said.
I really hope not. He is a tall, potentially large individual. But SGA has a 1.56 fantasy point per minute producer. Against Washington, you have to move that baseline to the right. 1.7 fantasy point per minute producer is probably what you should be expecting in this spot. Yes, there's blowout concerns. Yes, they're on a back-to-back, but like whatever. Give me all the SGA and all the land considering all the value we have. And now potentially some Jordan Nwora to go along with some Royce O'Neal. We've got some cheapies to contemplate here. Nuke of the night, SGA.
I'm going to go with Jordan Nwora. I mean, he's going to end up being very popular here now that he's starting, but we're talking about a guy who is the flat min over on DraftKings.
Yeah.
3K price point.
3,500 on FanDuel too for the people.
Yeah, over on FanDuel, 3,500. So also the flat min price, a little bit more expensive on FanDuel, but that's he's power forward and small forward at 3,500 on FanDuel. That is super, super favorable positionality over there. So I'm going with Jordan Nwora. I want a little bit of Jordan Nwora in my life. Eric wants a little bit of Chet Holmgren in his wife. Jeez. So let's do it. We've got a slate coming tonight, post-lock show coming. Got a late night show also coming up for you guys after this one. Jordan Nwora, that's going to be my nuke of the night for the most recent news that we have going on here. Anything you want to add about Dick or Grady Dick from the Toronto Raptors? Maybe you could tie that in.
Maybe Chet Holmgren Dick. I don't know. It's something. There's something there for the people. I apologize for existing. I don't know what to tell you.
That's all we've ever asked of you to apologize for. Guys, let's move forward. And also, if you haven't done it yet, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Don't forget, after the show ends in 25 minutes, this show might end on YouTube, but we're going to carry on over on playback. We've got some good stuff planned for tonight. It's going to be myself and Josh Lawfeast popping in for a little bit. We've also got Ben Raza coming in. He's going to be doing a little bit of a Ben's obscure bet. Last night, he dropped in and I don't even know what he bet, like some D3 college basketball game or something. But Ben is always keeping us up to date on the most obscure betting things that he always ends up crushing. Your guys' super chats, though. Chris Williams said it's been longer than 11 months. Just saying, great show. Chris, thank you very much. We appreciate it. Then we've got Christian Valentine is saying, thoughts on Eubanks today for DraftKings? Drew Eubanks. Is he somebody that you're considering at all, Eric?
So I saw the question about it. I'm probably not. I mean, the problem is that they go to some of these small ball lineups with Drew Eubanks as a starter. He never really sees the kind of minutes you're hoping for in the starting role as the backup here. I keep contemplating it, and I keep kind of landing on the same conclusion. It's Houston. It's a pretty gross spot. He's already pulling double-digit ownership. He's 3,700. It wouldn't completely shock me if you ran into more minutes. Again, 29 in his most recent start is decent, but going back to Christmas, 17 minutes there, 15 games in starting units there without Yusuf Nurkic there. That's That's just not going to do it for me here. So I think there's enough minutes volatility where at double-digit ownership, I'm not willing to embrace it here. He's just a 0.9 fantasy point per minute producer. Tough spot. 20 minutes of him isn't showing up in my lineups.
By the way, Jordan Nwora, our projections are updated. We have him in for 26 minutes, which gives him a fantasy projection of a little bit over 20 fantasy points, which just makes him look absolutely the best value play on both FanDuel and DraftKings for tonight. Jordan Nwora, he's your best points per dollar play on the slate if you're looking to go cheap. As far as Drew Eubanks, I mean, it's just been, if you have him in a couple of lineups, cool. It's not the end of the world. Just start to prioritize him. There was times earlier in the year where we're playing Drew Eubanks at times where the Suns were shorthanded, but it's just been made very clear by this team that they are just not prioritizing giving Drew Eubanks minutes, which is going to make him somebody difficult to really get to at any kind of meaningful amount at this point, especially with the center position eligibility there. Phil Senzig, who puts it in the basket, lotion play of the night, Eric.
Oh, I'm just going to make him, he's going to be the lotion play. He's going to be the SGA is that guy. I mean, SGA. Go back to
chat. Lotion him up. I mean, you don't want him going in, rough and it could cause damage. He's a gigantic human being.
He's from Minnesota. That's actually,
corn. Yeah. He's lived off corn for his entire life. I don't know. What else do you eat in Minnesota?
Oh, no.
I won't make the next joke. This is where I cut myself off. See,
I knew you were going to take it to a place where it should not go.
Which is why I didn't do it.
There. Well done. We're learning. You and I have no filters. And now all of a sudden, when you hit that point, you're like, you know what? Let's bring it back. Let's bring it back for the people.
Just a little. Let me see. Who do I want to be my lotion play today? Who's gonna score buckets? So how you are going to SGA, I'm inclined to just answer Jordan Nwora for everything now, considering his price point, and I'm rerunning everything here, and I am fairly sure that I'm going to just be absolutely loading up and getting myself to a ton of Jordan Nwora. So lotion play of the night, Jordan Nwora relative to his price tag. Thomas Ryan, DK, each position, and then no golf to report today, Eric. Eric, what is your favorite position?
Why?
Because it's the question we got asked.
Point guard.
Chet Holmgren can never play point guard. He's a quite large human
CJ McCollum can, and he's going to be underutilized. I know it's a Miami matchup, but if there's no Zion, give me as much CJ McCollum as I can get to.
All right, so let's go position by position here. Starting at point guard for me, that is going to be Darius Garland. Shooting guard. Who's your overall favorite shooting guard on the slate, Eric?
Let me pull up who I have. I have Trey Murphy at the moment.
I think I'm going to be getting myself to some Devin Booker now that we have a little bit more value in the front court. I don't know he's going to be one of my most roster. I'm still rerunning lineups, but just figuring where I'm going to end up getting to, I'll say Devin Booker for now. Small forward, Jordan Nwora.
Yeah, Jordan Nwora by a lot.
Power forward.
Mobley.
I also answered Jordan Nwora here, but I'm going to go with Evan Mobley.
Yep, Mobley.
Another interesting one here, though. Actually, I'm going to say for now Zion. If Zion plays, he's going to be under-owned on this slate, especially considering that he's questionable heading into lock. I'm actually going to mix this up here. I'm going to go with Evan Mobley at center, so I could go with Zion at power forward. If he's out, sure, we'll make changes. We'll late swap our lineups. It's something that we could certainly be covering potentially on the post-lock show if Zion is ruled out. But for now, I think Zion is somebody who's going to go under-owned by the field because of that questionable status. For yourself, Eric, center?
Definitely Jared Allen. If it's not going to be Evan Mobley.
Riley Cooper, 14, best play under 4K on DraftKings. It's got to be Jordan Nwora.
Nwora.
Jorge Giacomi. Jorge, by the way, ended up coming in, if I'm not mistaken, 6th.
Saw that.
Or was it 7th in the $15 last night?
So beautiful.
We had Tom was in first. Jorge was in the top 10. Josh had a couple lineups in the top 15. You, Eric, had a couple lineups in the top 100 as well. It was a good night for us around here. Once again,
lovely.
Sign up for any of our packages using the link that we have below in the description box, including our new lineup generator bundle package. But Jorge's question, top 3 must-haves for 20 lineups, DK 20 max. Who are the 3 players you'd say must-have? Jordan Nwora, easy. Going to give him his 1. Who are the other 2? Going to go Mobley, Garland, somewhere else?
Yeah, Mobley, Garland. Have to play him.
Don't have an issue with that.
Yeah. I am playing Zion in single entry for what it's worth, and obviously will pivot if he is out. So throw that in there too.
Let's see what we have as our next question. It is from Din3Row33. He wants to know, would you ROI to get the Pelicans to get more Pelicans in case Zion is ruled out? So here's the way I think it makes most sense to use the Sims tool and to change around your players. Like, certainly upgrade some players from the Pelicans, but I'm also inclined to give a positive ROI boost to Zion because I want to get some more of him as well. Here are the two players I want to give ROI boost to the heaviest: Zion Williamson, CJ McCollum. McCollum already looks good now. If McCollum ends up playing with no Ingram and no Zion, you are going to want to have a lot of CJ McCollum. So the player overall you want to give the biggest ROI boost to on the Pelicans is McCollum, in my opinion, but still Zion as well. Eric, any differing thoughts on this or anybody you would add to the equation?
No. Anybody else that I want to ROI boost? So yesterday, I mean, it ended up working out very, very nicely to get way up to Luka and Jokic. I try not to get too hands-on when we're talking about some of the mid-range values. I like kind of the Sims tool being able to differentiate the mid-range for me and kind of help out figuring out what kind of lineups are going to move up the board that are going to be different enough and also have the highest projection on the slate. If I had to ROI boost anybody, what do you think about Toronto? Because I feel like we didn't start talking about them. We've now talked about them in the capacity that, like, I didn't think Bruce Brown was going to end up starting, which is why I answered the question the way I did. I didn't see Jordan Nwora becoming the guy, but, like, is this a good thing or a bad thing? Because, like, Bruce Brown is a stat stuffer, not necessarily a usage guy. But, like, I think there's a case to be made where everybody's peripherals getting an opportunity to, like, I think this is probably a bad thing for Gary Trent, but his price point makes it okay for me that I'm still going to get there. Scotty Barnes, I feel like, I mean, he has come up in ownership, but, like, rightfully so. The rebound rate for him quickly, an opportunity for a little bit more Jakob Poeltl maybe in my life. Like, I feel like I'm not getting to those guys as much as I should be. So maybe I ROI boost to get a little bit of them.
So you're saying you're not getting to those other Raptors
not getting to them really the way I have like 20% Scotty Barnes, but I'm really not getting to quickly. I have a little bit of Gary Trent, but not really getting to Jakob Poeltl either, who I mean, that's an interesting center play. They had a massive blowout yesterday, and I think Jakob Poeltl was well on his way to smashing. He got that first rotation, but only ended up playing 26 minutes. They kind of protected him so that he was good to go for probably whatever they needed to on this back-to-back. Plus, Brooklyn just laid down and died in that game. If you watched it, it was pretty pathetic. But Jakob Poeltl at 6,200, I really like for tournaments, but I currently have 0. That's a problem.
I don't think I'm going to get myself to very much of Jakob Poeltl.
Okay.
So I think my best lineup, if I remember correctly, yesterday actually did have Emmanuel Quickley in it. But that aside, like if I had to get to any of these other Raptors players, I'm most inclined to get to Quickley. He is the player who, we don't have that much information on Quickley playing with the Raptors with RJ Barrett off the court. But just from like a logic standpoint, it stands to reason that Quickley be the player who sees the biggest usage bump and is the guy who has the ball in his hands more in the absence of RJ Barrett. So I do think he's the guy who sees the biggest benefit from him being out.
Yeah, he's got shooting guard eligibility on FanDuel, and he's 6,800 over there. I really like him for tournaments on FanDuel. On DK, he's already popular, 6,900, but on FanDuel, there's just no way around it. I'm going to have him in single entry there.
Right, doing another sim run here. Could be the last one before we get to lock, but we'll see. Let's see. We've got Corey Shea saying no sites say that Jordan Nwora is starting. I'm fairly sure that's not true. We got Jordan Nwora.
Ban hammer.
Yeah. No, it was a super chat.
Oh, never mind. We love you though.
Confused.
Yeah, it's okay. No, you can pay us money to lie.
Jordan Nwora starting. Jordan Nwora starting.
What?
All right. Eitan, remove yourself from playback. I don't know what you're doing over there. Don't know what you're doing. Remove yourself.
We can't hear him, thank God.
Yeah. We're on live before lock, Eitan. Talking about
Meatloaf.
He's removed himself. I couldn't hear him because I have that muted over there so that I'm not listening to this, multiple times. But anyway. All right, let's see what we have. Oh, by the way, Corey Shea followed up with a super chat. He said, oops, it does now. So yeah, all good. No problems. Then we've got TBE Nova wants to know, is it possible to lock anyone in on the lineup generator? He just said the generator. I don't know if you're talking about the lineup generator, the contest generator. So here's what you can do. If you're building lineups in the Sims, you could just do a really strong positive ROI boost to somebody, and that'll make them show up in pretty much all your lineups. If you're talking about the lineup generator, yes, you can absolutely lock people in there. Anthony Maniaci. Oh boy, I definitely fucked that up. Anthony wants to know, Greg, who is my single entry center? Apologies for butchering your last name. By the way, actually running my lineups here, Eric, I did get myself to some of Jakob Poeltl. Not like a crazy amount, but he is in some of my lineups here.
Makes me happy.
See. As for my single entry center, that is Jared Allen. How about yourself?
Yeah, Jared Allen.
Next super chat is from Pierre. Wants to know top plays at each position on FanDuel. Yeah, I'm rerunning lineups right now. Give me like 5 seconds and I'll circle back to that, Pierre, because I just finished running DraftKings lineups and I've got FanDuel lineups running at the same time as well. So I'm going to answer one more question and then I'll get back to yours. Riley Cooper, 14. Any love for Bruno Fernando on DK? No, Clint Capella's back.
We don't talk about Bruno. No. We don't talk about Bruno.
Just that it's a no. He says it's a no. Getting back to Pierre's question, top plays at each position on FanDuel. At point guard for me, that is Darius Garland. You said you had FanDuel lineups built out, correct, Eric?
Yep, I had FanDuel too. Yep.
Garland for me at point guard, yourself?
Same.
Shooting guard, that is actually Quickly.
That is Quickly. Yeah, I said you just play him in single entry over there.
Small forward, Jordan Nwora.
Nwora by a lot.
Yeah. Power forward, also Nwora by a lot. So instead, I'll go Evan Mobley here.
I'll go Scotty Barnes. He's shown up the most for me on FanDuel now.
And then Jared Allen at center.
And Jared Allen.
Phil Senzig said, Greg, you missed a super chat. Or I missed it. What did I miss? I thought I've been doing all of them in order. Did I miss something? I'm scrolling back. I did Phil's put the lotion in the basket.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, he is right. My bad. I screwed this up. Phil says, juvenile verse. Pick your dog poop off my lawn play. All right.
Yes.
Who's
he called the shit poop.
Who's going to shit on our lawn today? You went with Keontae George yesterday.
Don't put it out with your boots, kid.
He ended up pulling it together late. But today, who's going to shit in our lineups?
Yeah, no. I mean, Keontae George was still frustrating because, again, if you get 32 or something, I have a different night. I had a good night, but it could have been just like legend. Wait for it. What does a cow make? Dairy. Legendary. Zion Williamson available to play. That matters. So he's probably going to ruin my life because I'm about to ROI boost the shit out of him in the last 11 minutes.
Oh, was that all right? So I have to change my lineups again because I was just upping McCollum.
Sure do.
I have to redo that. All right. Oh, nuts. All right. So
Zion on the court, not off the court.
McCollum a little bit. I'm gonna up Zion a little bit. I was already saying before that Zion was somebody who I liked getting to. Now it's going to be, now that he's confirmed in, I could, even more confidently say that he's somebody who I want to be getting to here.
Yep. I mean, this is the $4 man. I'm going to do some weird stuff. I'm just going to jam Zion today. Just jam.
I wouldn't say that's a weird thing to do.
I'm going to do it. I'm going to, you know what? Haven't done this for a while. Like one of those really aggressive, like Eric moves where it's like, you're what? I'm going to play 100% Zion.
Oh, all right. I mean, I have him in, for what it's worth, I just did some quick boosts here because I wanted to get to myself more. I have Zion in 53%. It's almost the same number I had yesterday. Yep. I think I had 48% Zion yesterday.
I had something like that yesterday too. I'm just going to play every share I can.
Right. Upload these lineups now, and let's see who's gonna poop on our lawn though, Eric.
Zion. Yeah, Zion's gonna take a big dookie right in the middle.
So he's gonna ruin the slate for you?
Probably. Him and Nwora and SGA just rotating around those guys over and over and over and over and over and over and over like Marshawn Lynch.
Boy, I just updated my lineups. I got to 30% of Darius Garland now. If Garland has a big night, that could end up ruining me. It's a little scary. There's just so many guys that I like on the slate now. I think if Garland has a big game.
I wish I didn't have to filter my brain sometimes. I had a really funny joke, but then I realized that it was actually a joke with Chet Holmgren and my wife, and based on the thing you said. So I'm not going to say it because, again, the YouTube lives forever.
I mean, you don't want her to accidentally find this, and then then she's got evidence in the court.
Did you see that video of the chick though that said that her hall pass was Lindy Waters and Barry Sanders Jr.? Do you know what I'm talking about? You obviously don't know. I have
absolutely no clue, but that's, okay. I mean, that's like
good
very,
talk.
How does she even know who Lindy Waters is?
She's obviously from Oklahoma, but like she had like her boyfriend on her shoulder and they were just like, hey, do you have a hall pass? And the guy's like, no, I don't really. And she goes, Lindy Waters the third. I'm like, what? Who are you, person? And then she backed it up with Barry Sanders Jr., which again, this has to be an Oklahoma thing.
It would have been really funny though if she said all three of the Lindy Waterses. Lindy Waters the first, second.
Just anyone she can get. That's great.
All of them.
Really great.
It's been all three generations of Lindy Waterses at the same time.
Three generations of large family braiding.
All right, let's get through some more of these questions. We're going to do some quick ones here. We got a bunch of questions that came in, and favorite Eminem verse, Eric, from Phil Senzig. He left you that super chat.
Nowadays, everybody want to talk like they got something to say, but none comes out when they move to live. Just a bunch of chippers. What the fuck about that? They forgot about Dre.
All right, there we go. That is the absolute favorite Eminem verse from Eric. Phil, thank you for the super chat. Neek's top 2 must-have players on FanDuel. I'm going to say Jordan Nwora on FanDuel and Evan Mobley.
Yeah, those are the two. Those are the two.
Shout out to Chris Williams for gifting out 5 YouTube memberships. Chris,
dude, we always doing it.
You. And for everybody else, you want to support the channel, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Also, check us out on playback after this. That's another way to help support us and just show up and watch the show on playback. That really does go a long way to helping us. RaceFan22, $7,300 left for a DK utility. He already has Evan Mobley and Jared Allen. Which way should he go? Let's see. 7,300, he tells us. Let's see. He already has Allen and Mobley. The guy like the next most there is going to be Emmanuel Quickly.
Probably correct. Denny Avdia ruled out.
Oh,
all right, that matters for FanDuel. Fudge my face. Why am I playing both sites? What have I done? Why did I choose today?
It matters for DraftKings too.
No, but I'm just saying that like now I have to run it on 2 different sites in 6 minutes.
Oh, yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah, you've cucked yourself for the second time.
Oh, second time. I just call Chet and get it over with.
All right. So Eric, I'm going to let you update your lineups. Go work on that. I'll handle it from here, sir. I've got you. I'll take over. And
God, I have to change out the props on pick 6 too. I'm
probably not going to have time to rerun everything for Denny Avdia. So I'm going to wait until the slate locks, and then I'm going to rerun lineups using our late swap tool after. So Eric, go work on your shit, get stuff updated. I'll answer these questions here. Garrett Skiba won the monster on FanDuel last night, all due to Eric and not Greg. Look at that. Garrett, love to see it. Congrats to you and Eric.
Get cucked, Gregory.
Look at that, helping out Garrett. Congrats, Eric. Congrats to both Eric and Garrett. That's big news for both of you. Teddy Wayman says he bought League Pass on YouTube TV. Will I be able to watch with you all on playback? Thanks, guys. You should be able to, right, Jordan?
Yes. Oh my God, am I going to have so much Corey Kispert? Am I going to play Corey Kispert today? Do I have a problem? I'm going to play Corey Kispert.
You do have a problem. I don't know if it's a Corey Kispert one, but
I have a Corey Kispert problem.
All right, let's see what we have. We've got Kenny. Oh boy, we're going to have to bring Eric in for this one. Kenny Wayne, 256. Eric, who's the exotic play of the night?
You guys are evil people. For FanDuel, it's Jokic. For DK, it is going to be Chet Holmgren, just because it's funny.
Yeah, Maxsters for me. Maxsters for me.
Cool.
Next question here. MMS Media Captain says 6 players you put into the most lineups. Let's see. Well, here are the 6 players I have the most exposure to right now. Jordan Nwora, Zion Williamson, Gary Trent Jr., Evan Mobley, Jared Allen, Emmanuel Quickly. So I'm going to say
sounds like a good list.
6 MMS Media. Still pending some updates on what I end up doing with the Denny Avdia situation. Swanson, 1979, says, Eric, you said under on the Phoenix game last night, possibly a 228. It's now all the way up to 233.5.
Yeah,
Eric, if you like the under 228, do you also like the under 233.5?
Yeah, no. So I have been pretty good at avoiding totals because for whatever reason I am terrible at analyzing them, and I have been very honest about such things. This one makes no sense to me. This makes absolutely no sense. I think the people reacted to Fred VanVleet leaving, and then he's playing. He's fine. So like, I don't know what's going on with it. I like the under. So yeah, 232 is definitely getting the stamp of approval.
Mr. Cool Cam wants to know nuke of the night. We did already do the nuke of the night, Mr. Cool Cam, but appreciate you asking there. Stokes wants to know how much of a gap is there between SGA and KD tonight? Yeah, let me go and look at my lineups. If I recall, I have quite a bit more of SGA, but
yeah,
let me circle back.
I'm just jamming SGA. I'm doing some really funky stuff because again, winning 100,000 person tournament, you know, it's going to take something unique, and so I'm building pretty aggressively today.
I have a very comparable amount of SGA and Durant. I have them in both around 20% of lineups. By the way, I have Devin Booker around 20% as well. So they're, to me, not that much of a gap. If we're just talking about relative to price and relative to position and everything like that, I don't have a massive gap between them in my line. But if it's just, you know, do you want to play Durant or SGA, and this is price agnostic in the utility spot? The answer is SGA. There's about a 5 fantasy point gap between them. Norman Powell ruled out today as well. That is going to be something that is going to also impact this slate. So more things that we could potentially be talking about here on the late lock show or after lock show with Josh in just a few minutes over on playback, because stuff that we are not going to be able to get to immediately here. But then we've also got Rico Rod wants to know my top roster players at each position on FanDuel. Yeah, I'll go back over to FanDuel, and that is Darius Garland, Emmanuel Quickly, Jordan Nwora, Evan Mobley, Jared Allen, most roster players at each position over on FanDuel. So let me double check. Oh, here we go. Just got one more question that came in. Rico Rod wants to know my thoughts on Goodwin on FanDuel. So I assume you mean Jordan Goodwin. And Jordan Goodwin is not somebody that's showing up in lineups for me. I don't think he's somebody you need to really play today.
Why did I play 2 lineups today? What were 2 sites? Why am I so dumb?
I mean, it could be a number. I keep a list of this on my phone if you want me to read it off.
Go ahead.
Okay. So reason number 1 is just in general, you weren't given enough attention and love as a child. It doesn't necessarily make you stupid, but it just led to some poor decision-making, like illicit drug use, which ultimately ended up making you a little bit stupider. You never learned to read. That's been a little bit problematic for you.
Yep.
Once again, these are just some of the notes I have on my phone. We've got playback coming up, which I'm not going to be able to get to all of them because, you know, this is like a CVS receipt that I have stored in my phone here. But Eric, it's going to be okay. We've got the late swap tool for you to take advantage of over at Stochastic.
That's
None
true.
of the games that we just had news for was stuff that is for the 7:30 game. We got the 8 p.m. game. That is going to be Norman Powell being ruled out. Then we also got, it was Denny Avdi. Did we get any starting lineups for those teams, by the way? No, just Denny Avdi out, Norman Powell out. We're about to cover all of the implications of that over on playback. Josh and I are going to be doing some late swapping. I see Josh is already hanging out there. So guys, live before lock, it is over, but the show continues over at playback. Jordan, can you drop the playback link into YouTube? I know you're already on that right now, but go ahead and do that even more aggressively. So guys, go join us over on playback. We're going to go over there. Josh and I are going to be talking about the implications of the latest news, and we're going to be breaking down the late slate over on playback. So go check it out. Thank you guys very much for watching. Like the video, subscribe over on YouTube. Join us over on playback. Peace out.